welcome to our Morning Throners podcast. I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're the fucking Morning Throners.
All right, welcome back to another episode of your Morning Throners. I'm Jeffrey, and the gang is all here with one of the most vulgar eps to date.
A good ep.
Great ep.
Entertaining ep.
Great
Kyle,
ep.
thoughts? Two back-to-back, not like huge, like this one's not as big, I don't think, but it's still pretty
Both are really
jaw-dropping moment.
Yeah, I mean, it was another big finish for sure.
I think even like the beginning part of this chapter is pretty crazy, like where it starts off.
Just munching on a heart.
Literally just like chewing on a raw horse heart.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't catch me that crazy because, I mean, I think a lot of tribes do kind of stuff like that, like for real.
Yeah?
I don't know for the same exact reason, but yeah, they definitely raw kill. I mean, I know Eric eats deer heart.
Raw?
Cooked though, right?
I mean, it's like lightly seared.
Lightly seared?
You touch it to the pan on each side, yeah, and that's it.
I thought Erica was vegan.
No.
Is deer heart vegan?
No, first off,
I don't
no.
think, if it's vegan, I don't think you can eat anything from an animal, right?
Yeah.
The
Like,
animal
even
has
eggs
to
aren't
die
vegan.
for you to get the heart, Nelson.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
like the
I know the
opposite.
guy from...
Like vegans, some vegans, like the hardcore ones won't even take honey because like you're taking resources from the bee, you know, like you're talking about cutting a heart out and being maybe not vegan.
Well, I know the guy in Dual Survivor. Have you guys seen that show, Dual Survivor? Kind of like Survivor
Yeah.
Man or Man vs. Wild, but it's like one hippie, one like army guy. The army guy's always the one that like hunts, but he always says that he like respects the animal and like out of respect he takes a bite of the raw heart, which is like
Yeah, I mean, well, they're.
I don't know if that like, if
How's that
somebody kills
respectful?
me. Yeah, I don't know if somebody kills me and eats my heart. I don't know if that's respectful or not. But okay, to each his own.
Do
Yeah,
you
I
do
know
that in the
people do it.
I
battlefield
thought
too?
some cultures like thought it gave them the power of the animal that they're eating it out of and
Yeah,
stuff.
I
Like
knew
a lot
that.
of
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
indigenous
That was back in, like-
American.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
What are they? What do you First
It's like in the
Nations people?
1400s.
A freaking horse heart has to be like big as shit though, like the size of like a football.
It's got to be big.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty large for sure,
It's gotta
and
pump
it's
a lot of
raw,
blood.
and it's raw.
Yeah, so Drogo brings her this. Like, what's the setting here? Like, she's
They're in
says
a
she's,
big
like, in a
ass
pit.
tent. Yeah,
No, it's
a
a big
pit.
ass pit, and it's
I
like
think-
a salty sand area, I guess, because she said I forget what she says about the pit, but it's like lit with torches all around it.
So a little bit further on when she leaves here, she says that she goes back out onto like the grass way or the God's way, I guess they call it, which leads from the mountain to the horse gate that they went through in the last chapter, the one that they came through.
Yeah, the big.
So it's like
standing
basically like a main,
stallions.
basically just like a main street that goes the whole way from that to the mountain.
do you
And
think this
I'm
is the
assuming
same
that
place
they're,
they
like-
end?
No, not at all. I'm assuming this is like right next to the mountain. Like I doubt that they actually went down at all to get into a pit. I bet you it's kind of like they just went straight and like the mountain walls kind of caved around them. So they're kind of more in like I picture it more of like a cavern on right next to the mountain than it
Are you
is.
talking the womb of the world, or what are you talking
No.
about?
I'm talking about where they're starting now. Because like
Okay.
when they leave this, it just says that like her and Drogo like walk off out of the pit. So they just like walk out of the pit. They don't have to like climb or anything. So I don't think it's like surrounded on all sides. I think it's more like a cavern that like comes from the horse statues down this main road up to like right up against the mountain. And like the wall of the
Yeah.
mountain is what makes it seem like a pit. It doesn't really matter, but that's what I got.
Googled it. 8 pounds is like an average horse heart. That's
Holy
a lot of meat.
shit! That's almost like unrealistic
pounds of
amount
meat.
of meat.
She didn't
8
eat for a day and a
pounds is
half.
How much
ridiculous.
is like a Doba burrito or like a Nito burrito is like twice as big as a normal
not
burrito?
2 pounds.
Maybe like 2 pounds.
Not
I was
even.
gonna say 2 pounds at
So
most.
there was a place
Nito
in-
is 2 pounds, I think.
Place in Westchester that you get the Gordo burrito challenge, and it was a 2-pound burrito. It was 2 tortillas next to each other, and that was almost impossible to eat. So I can only imagine.
8 pounds of
Pounds.
raw horse
Jesus.
flesh.
So what did she do to prepare for this?
She's
drink
been
her
starving
blood.
herself.
So she hasn't eaten for a day
2
and a
days
night.
before. Yeah.
And she's been
Eating
like
blood.
mixing blood into her meals and just
Horse
raw,
flesh.
horse flesh, yeah. But
Yeah, so
smoked,
she's
I
basically
assume
eating
it's
like
raw.
she's eating
Horse
like
flesh.
jerky. She's eating like horse jerky to like get her jaw stronger. She's eating bowls of clotted blood to try and get used to the taste, and then she just doesn't eat for a day and a half, so that she's like really hungry by the time this comes. Do you think, like each of you, not just Kyle, do any of you guys think you could do this?
No.
Absolutely
an 8-pound
not.
Fucking heart.
I
No.
couldn't do a cooked 8-pound heart. Come on.
And again, I want to remind
Could you do
everybody.
8 pounds of burger? Like
No
cooked burger?
way. Think about
Like,
how
let's Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I
let's
don't
go to
know.
something that's not going to make you throw up to begin with.
I'd have to be really.
It had to have been a small horse. Because Danny's only 13. That's what I also want to remind Jeff Glow and the viewers. Danny's only 13.
Jeff didn't
like
forget.
She's like 14 right now. Come on.
Yeah, get out of here.
She was 14.
Nels. Did
One-
you give us 14?
Look, we've got a lot more book to go. I don't want to hear this every chapter. Okay, every time Danny gets mentioned, I said Amelia Clark is very hot, not this a 14-year-old fucking girl. All right, can we put that to fucking rest?
That's not even the point I'm trying to make. I mean, it is fucking weird, and I'm gonna bring it up again later after she comes out of the womb of the world. But like, she's a 13. Like, again, like it's ridiculous.
She's
eating a horse
14.
heart. We can't eat a freaking horse heart right now as grown adults, and she's doing it as a 13-year-old girl. It's fucking nuts, and a pregnant 13-year-old girl.
So can we start at the point where she probably had a little different growing up than we did as well, though? Like,
True.
I
She
mean,
wasn't
you
eating
say that-
Doritos and Tostitos or whatever, Hot Pockets.
Yeah. She
She's been
probably
eating
is. This
basically,
probably
like-
isn't the first heart that she's eaten a piece of.
Okay,
Probably
maybe.
raw.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe raw and maybe the whole thing. I understand. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
that she's a veteran at this, but like, I mean, it was probably in some sort of meal. She was like an orphan for a while, right? Like pretty
Yeah.
much on the run.
I mean, she
like,
probably ate chicken hearts or goat hearts.
Yeah.
yeah.
Chicken
I mean,
gizzards are good.
it's still awesome. I mean, I still couldn't do this, but
I also
I guess
wonder
puts it
this
in perspective a little more.
So why does she do this?
Because
You have to.
it depends on.
So her
It's
baby
like a
will grow
prophecy of
big
the
and
baby.
strong.
Not even
It
that.
also
It's like
guarantees a boy.
I don't know if it like I don't think they think more of how she responds to the heart is telling of the child, not whether she can keep it down. I guess it's all wrapped in, but if she throws up, it's a girl or a weak child. I think it's more of like a prophecy than like just a reaction. I don't know. I think it's more
It's
like
just
she can.
ancient
I don't think
superstition is all
I
it
don't.
is, man.
It's true.
Yeah, so it says
Obviously.
the direct
Yeah.
quote says the heart of the stallion would make her son strong and swift and fearless, or so all the Dothraki believed, but only if the mother could eat it all. If she choked on the blood or wrenched up the flesh, the omens were less favorable. The child might be stillborn or come forth weak, deformed, or female. So you might be right about the male thing. Like if you choke on it, that's what makes your baby a girl.
That's what they believe.
yeah,
like-
that's what they
Yeah,
do.
that's her
So-
belief. I wouldn't say
That's-
if you want
that's what I was
a son,
asking.
go
So-
eat a fucking horse heart real quick.
Next is like, I wonder like what the
More,
success rate
more
of this
female
is.
medical advice from the Morning Throners. Go eat a horse heart if you're pregnant and you want a boy.
Exactly. Yeah.
A big strong boy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I wonder what the success rate of this is. It seems like this is the only thing that like Khaleesi's do, right? So only
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
wives
say,
of
probably
cows.
isn't
Like, I don't
very
think
often.
everyone does it, but I don't
But
know.
even if it's a boy, they can just say it's like, all right, it's a weak boy. Like it's not a. He's already being predetermined that he's weak just by what happened. So
yeah, for
they're
sure.
just not going to respect him, even if it's a boy. So it's not until he like kills everybody, I guess. And it's-
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
You know,
yeah.
until he-
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. They're gonna rationalize it and justify it. I mean, you see that nowadays, even with some of these ridiculous prophecies.
So she ends up eating the whole thing. Not the easiest thing ever. And near the end, she looks towards Khal Drogo and she thinks that he like looks proud of her. And the crones say, "Kalaka Dothra Manha."
No, she says that.
She looks at the old crones and says, "Kalaka Dothra Maharaha," which means a prince rides in me. The oldest of crones, a bent and shriveled stick of a woman with a single black eye, raised her arms on high. "Kalaka Dothre," she shrieked. "The prince is riding. He is riding," the other women answered. "Raka, Raka, Rakaha," they proclaimed. A boy, a strong boy. So also, Kyle, I don't know if you're interested, but there has been a published book about on the Dothraki language, and like you
I'm
can
sure
learn
there
it.
is.
Like, you can learn it.
So isn't that the story of the Lord of the Rings?
What?
Didn't he like create Elvish? Tolkien created like Elvish language, and then he had to make a world around it. Like
So
he was
George-
like he
Well,
felt it needed a world. That's Tolkien.
I'm not sure if I don't know if I'll
That's a
believe you.
long
I don't
time
know.
ago.
I haven't heard anything about that. This is kind of backwards. George had no inclination of ever creating a language out of this. He did it, and then the show came out, and somebody who was like a linguist who really liked the show
Okay.
created a language that
So
fit.
they
Like
could-
he basically like made it so that everything that they said in the show made sense, and like it fits into his language that he created. But there's also like a ton of other shit that is never mentioned in the show that
Somebody else made it. I got you.
yeah. So, but yeah, you can go get that book. Amazon affiliate link in the description.
Dwight Schrute knows it.
Nope.
You can do the same thing. Dwight Schrute does know. He tries to teach Aaron.
Yeah.
Aaron has the last name in the office. He tries to teach Aaron.
Hot Aaron.
Aaron is hot, sneakily hot. They don't give her enough respect on the show.
So everyone starts cheering. They like throw special grasses onto the fire, and it makes smoke.
Boom!
And then Aaron Hannon, you're right. They throw grasses onto the fire, and it makes like a bunch of smoke. And then the oldest crone like looks into the fire with like her good eye.
No, I thought she closed her good eye.
She closed her
good
okay.
eye.
Yeah.
I think she only has one. She's got like a Fetty Wap
like,
style.
And Drogo like grabs her, and like she can tell that he's like nervous about what he's gonna say. But then she finally opens her eye, and she says, "I've seen his face and heard the thunder of his hooves. As swift as the wind he rides, and behind him his Khalasar covers the earth. Men without number, with aurochs shining in their hands like blades of razor grass. Fierce as a storm, this prince will be. His enemies will tremble before him, and their wives shall weep tears of blood and rend their flesh in grief. The bells in his hair will sing his coming, and the milkmen in the stone tents will fear his name. The prince is riding, and he shall be the stallion who mounts the world." So this is like kind of their battle cry, like later on, and like the tent and everything. It's even what Drogo says to her, like when he.
This is like the ultimate prophecy, man.
Yeah,
this is like it.
This is like Harry Potter's gonna defeat Voldemort.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than this.
So as I was reading it, how many times has this prophecy come up though? You know?
What do you mean?
Like how many times did they say, "Oh, this is the stallion that will mount the world"?
Oh, you mean like
maybe the last call
that
had a baby fucking this happened.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we don't know that, but what I think is interesting about this chapter is it kind of juxtaposes the two, like the beginning and the end of the world in the Dothraki religion. They talk about the womb of the world and where the first man and first horse came from, and then basically that's not really like how the world ends, because we heard in one of the other chapters from Jorah that they believe that like there's a grass that the ghost grass or something that the horses can't eat, and they believe that the way the world ends is that takes over everywhere, and then there's no more horses, so there's no more Dothraki. That he said that in one of the earlier chapters, but this is kind of like how this. I
think they were walking through it, weren't they?
No, he was just like mentioning it. I think he said that that's like from a Shai or like one of the other far off lands. But basically they talk about the womb of the world, which is how the Dothraki came to be in their belief, and then this is like the peak of the Dothraki civilization will be the stallion who mounts the world. So I don't know. I think it's cool how they just like talk about both those in the same chapter. So yeah, she says that, everyone starts repeating her words, and then Dany chooses a name. They like ask Dany what the name's gonna be.
Rhaego. Rhaego.
I know it was Rhaego, you ding dong.
What'd you say? Prego?
Yeah.
Like the tomato sauce?
Yeah, like the tomato sauce, exactly.
So basically after that they start going off. They're heading towards the womb of the world, I guess, on their way through the mountains. And they end up at the womb of the world, which basically seems like a lake with a bunch of grass reeds growing.
And this is where the first man came from.
Yeah,
and
that's what Jiri tells him.
Yeah. So then Daenerys starts stripping down, getting all naked, and starts waddling herself into the waters to clean herself. Little weird mention of him. It felt cold when the water touched her lower lips. It's like, all right, George. All right, good on you.
I didn't get that. Did she have her face in the water?
I didn't even pick up on that.
Hey, if we're being honest, what's the worst part about like walking into a cold ocean or like a cold
balls? Your balls.
Your balls.
When it touches your pussy.
And then your nipples. and then your nipples.
Can't speak to that. I don't have a problem with the nipples, but balls is just like you got to get over that.
Dude, come on,
like,
you
got to jump in, man.
Definitely.
You don't do this. You don't.
I think
walk
once
slowly
I think once I get past the balls, that's probably when I jump in.
No, you got to put your head under. Once the whole thing goes in, you're good. You dive through the first wave you can, and then it's over.
Exactly. Agreed.
All right. So Glow, keep going.
Tips. Life pro tip right there.
So she starts washing herself in the waters, and she notices that some of the crones are like murmuring about her, but they're still chanting her name or whatever. Everyone's watching her. When she comes out, she's shivering, and Jiqui, I think, is about
Doria goes to, like, with a robe to try and like clothe her.
And then Khal Drogo's like, nah.
Before we get into this part, do you think there's any other reason than her just like washing off the blood that she's in here?
This is probably part of the ceremony.
It's a sacred place to wash off all this shit.
Wait, Jeff, what's your question? Why she's at the womb?
Is it just
Or why
a
they
wash
fuck
off?
afterwards?
No. Is like she just going into to bathe and like,
Oh no, I agree with Kyle. I think that's part of the ceremony. I think the fucking might also be part of the ceremony.
Nah.
I didn't think at first.
I
didn't
don't
think so
know.
at first because her handmaiden goes to clothe her, and you would think the handmaiden knows the ceremony. But the one that goes to clothe her is Doria, who's the one from
who doesn't know? Yeah.
Lice. So she's not the Dothraki one. So maybe this is like because like
Her
when
not
Dany,
exactly knowing.
because. Yeah, like doesn't this happen already? Like, don't they like fuck in public before it? Like, already in the story?
It's
Yeah, for
definitely,
sure.
They said
So
at
it
weddings
just
like
makes me
people get
wonder-
fucked.
I mean, it's also
Yeah,
their
makes me wonder if-
custom to just like kind of bang whenever you get the chance, and like it's beautiful.
3 pump chump though. I'm disappointed in our man Khal Drogo.
He's that excited, Holmes. Come on, he's having a baby boy. It's gonna be the fucking stallion that mounts the world.
He was all horned up.
He was probably
That's
already
true.
ready to explode just on that news. Come on.
Well, I think the fact, like, kind of like you guys are saying, like, I assume most of the time the ceremony is done with like Dothraki women who like know what's going on and like have been kind of accustomed and knew this day was coming. Where Dany is like, again, 13-year-old girl from a different area. Like this is completely foreign to her. Like most people probably thought she'd be puking that heart up and like wouldn't be able to do this at all. And she fucking nails like the ceremony basically. And I think that just gets Drogo fired up. He's like, damn, I got a killer wife here. Not only is she a babe, not only is she like completely different looking, but she's nailing this so like just killing the ceremony, doing everything perfect. Like this had to, and she like just looks like so. Valyrian.
She got them titties, you know.
So I don't know if this isn't a spoiler, but this is a little more history than spoiler, I think. But Valyrians, which are what Dany is. Dany is a Targaryen. That's her last name. Targaryens are the only family in Westeros that immigrated from Valyria. Right, that's why they look different. They have silvery gold hair, purple eyes, way paler skin. The Targaryens weren't the only ones that were like that at one time. There was an entire civilization that had dragons and all, like a ton, like basically a whole separate Westeros where each family had dragons, and this was like way long ago. A huge like natural disaster happened, and everyone basically died except for the Targaryens because the Targaryens had immigrated to Westeros. So that's why they're the only Valyrians left. But the Valyrian heritage is like what makes her look so different. So like it makes Valyrians look different from people in Westeros, right? They have to look completely different to people like Dothraki people, right? Like she is ridiculously pale, almost
and that's even the
white.
point of what her looking for Viserys at the or Viserys at the party later.
Exactly, like he
she's
would
like,
stick out
he's
like a
gonna
sore
fucking
thumb.
stand out.
Exactly. So like, I don't know. I feel like that makes this kind of crazy too. Like if you think about, and I'm not speaking from experience. I'm sure that I've seen some movies or something, but like an outsider coming into a culture to perform like a ritual of that culture, like most of the time people don't expect it to go well, right?
It's like The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, you know?
I haven't seen
Starts
that.
killing
Last
it as a
Samurai is a
samurai.
white dude,
Yeah.
short ass white dude from America.
Is he supposed to be from America, or is he supposed to be
he's
like
like from
Japanese?
America.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he like was in the war or something and somehow got
Then yeah, sure.
displaced.
Fuck
Perfect
Tom
analogy.
Cruise.
Will.
You heard it here.
He's a Scientologist, but he's a good fucking actor.
Oh, one thing I glossed over when they were traveling over, Daenerys and Drogo have a talk about why she named the baby Rhaego.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Good
And
name.
Rhaego, and a great name, but she basically describes that her brother's name was Rhaegar and he was a great champion or warrior or something like that.
And the O probably comes from the Dothraki
Drago.
because
Drogo.
well, even later, Drogo's sitting with 3 different
Yeah.
2 other cows, and it's Drogo, Ogo, and Jehogo. So they all end in
There's
O. So,
Kaholo and
That's what I figured. Yeah, was that it was
Yeah.
a very
So I think
Dothraki take on Rhaegar for sure.
yeah, so I think it's a good name by
is good
Yeah,
name.
because when she first said that, I was like, did they talk about this? Like, is this something that like she agreed with Khal Drogo to name this baby, and then they get into it later? But it was like,
yeah. So one more thing is like Glow. I'm glad you brought that up. We skipped that. Is when Drogo asked that, he asked it in the common tongue.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
Dany has been
She's
teaching
teaching
her.
her.
to be-
She's been teaching him a little bit.
Is good
Do you
name.
think Viserys knows this at all? When he shows up later,
I don't-
saying
Probably
some
not.
I don't know how
absurd
much he
stuff.
could understand though when Viserys
I don't think
is
he
talking.
cares. Like, that's the thing. So like,
You don't
I don't
think
think
Viserys
he
cares?
No.
I don't know. I think part of the reason he walks with so much swagger is because
Do we really think
knows
that he
nobody
can understand that
him.
much though? Like
I don't think
Danny,
he
he's
cares.
pretty much like
there's a quote in the
pretty
book.
much like good name, wife pick good name.
Yeah, but I think there's a quote in the book where like when
His good
Viserys
name,
goes off,
Daenerys'
Daenerys
wife.
Drogo.
Come on.
When he comes in and goes off, though, like there's a quote where Danny says she looks at Drogo and doesn't think he understood everything, but he understood enough, and he started like joking to the other cows,
Sure.
probably saying like,
I
"Yo,
mean,
let's kill
I'm
this
sure a
motherfucker."
lot of it can be just like
because he's drunk.
The
and,
tone
like,
yeah, the
and,
tone, like
language.
syntax, like
Yeah. Well, he's fucking waving a sword
Yeah.
around. Like, I
For
mean,
sure. Well, that the part I was talking about was before that, but yeah, you're right.
it was like right before that. Like, I mean, you could see where it was going. I think when he walked in
He
with
waves
the
the sword around after Drogo tells him. he
but
has to sit in
still, like the
corner with all
context
cripples
clues, like
and
he's
shit.
coming in yelling, like what is this king that walks or whatever the fuck he calls him?
The Sorefoot
Yeah.
King.
You don't think that George? You don't think that George introduces the fact that Drogo speaks a little
I'm
bit of
sure.
common
No,
tongue
I'm
before
sure.
this? Because
I get you.
Yeah.
I got you.
I get where you're coming from too. Like he definitely isn't fluent, but I think I don't
Like,
think
he might have
Viserys
picked up
is
on,
aware
like,
that
4
he-
fucking
He has
words.
any knowledge. I don't know. He makes a sentence like, "Why did what is meaning name Rogo? What is meaning name Rogo?" I mean, it's not perfect English. It's like Kevin from The Office when he decides little words aren't important. Why use many words when few words do trick? She comes out of the water. She can tell Drogo's looking pretty horny. You can see like his manhood through his pants or whatever. So she walks up to him. She takes his pants off. He picks her up. 3-pump jumps her. She can feel the sea dripping down her leg.
He dumps her. Yeah.
And she gets dressed, and then they bring him the horses. Kaloho, who's one of the Blood Riders, helps Dany on the horse, and then they take off to Khal Drogo's massive tent hall. What I think is cool about these tents is, and I'm sure they probably have tents like this in real life, maybe, where the roof is
For
retractable.
sure.
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's well, I
It's
feel
just
like a lot of times-
canvas.
Well, tents are. Well, I mean,
I
what's
think
the point of
I think
walls
it's
then?
more of something that you just like
Well, if you're
pull it off.
living
It's
in
not
it.
like it like spins and retracts like some of the stadiums you see nowadays.
Well, yeah, you roll
Well, yeah,
it
for
up.
sure. But I'm saying in modern times, tents are meant to like what, keep out bugs and animals, right?
Yeah, but if you're living in it,
There's
like,
ways
if it
that you
was-
can do it where it probably seals pretty tight.
You just roll up the wall or the canvas. Like, I mean, you can roll up the window for sure in a tent. It's the same idea. What if it has a
okay.
skylight?
Okay.
You just roll that up.
Mesh. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, I don't think they have mesh, but I do think it's. Not
Do you
that
guys
big of
want
a
to go
deal.
camping after this?
I'll
Let's
go,
go on a
I'll
I
camp.
go
haven't been
camping with
camping
you
since I was
guys.
like 7 years old.
Let's go for a big old,
Dude, camping's
big
awesome.
ass hike.
Yeah, let's go to like Maine.
15-mile
camping.
hike. You can go camping.
I'm actually going
Deal.
up to Lake Willem Compact this weekend.
Moving
There you go.
on, so they get back to the tent, and it's just this big ass kind of feast, and everyone's around, and there's definitely
Well, this is the
this
real
level
party.
of. So I actually thought that she ate it in this tent too, but I guess that's null and void. It doesn't really
Doesn't
matter.
Yeah.
No, this is like the after party that everybody is invited
Yeah.
to.
So real quick, what's the difference in people at the ceremony versus at this party?
The ceremony is just like the Blood Riders and the very, very important people.
Basically,
And
the
Dosh
other
Khaleen.
cows, any other
Yeah.
cows who are in the city, the Blood Riders, the Dosh Khaleen, Dany, and Viserys, and then then her handmaids. Like, I don't even think Jorah.
Wait, was Viserys there?
Viserys
said
isn't there. Viserys,
No,
said-
fuck no.
and I don't think Jorah's there either.
I don't
Like, I
think
think
Jorah
it's-
might have been. They didn't mention him.
They didn't mention him, and
He
she
might be
says,
high enough because they say they respect the hell out of him.
well, yeah. When
Yeah.
she gets there, she says like she's looking around for Viserys, and she sees Jorah already seating though. Right, like Jorah's
Yeah.
already sitting in this tent, and she like
True.
literally was the first.
True.
Like her and Drogo like took off from the lake. That's the only reason I think he might not have been there. But I think, which makes it seem like it's a way. Like, I don't know, for some reason when I read it up until they got to the tent, I pictured like 300 or 400 people watching Dany do this. But now I'm starting to think it's probably like 30 or 40. I don't know how many crones there are. But
yeah, it depends on how many.
I think it's a way less crazy thing. Plus there was slaves there.
I feel like there's a lot of crones.
They talk about her becoming a crone
I
eventually.
feel like
as
every
well. We
crone,
kinda
every
skimmed over that.
live
That was
crone
like-
has got to be there.
For sure.
Yeah.
But what's the thing is like how many are there? Because like a crone is an ex-wife
I'm
of a
gonna say-
king.
I don't know. I feel like there's around 8 calls, so there's definitely a bunch of.
And think about how the
Old
calls
cow
probably die
wives.
in war and stuff like that. So like there's probably just, and some of them have multiple wives. Like the guy sitting next to him has 4 wives.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it could
say
be
he
like
does, there's
12 to 20.
freaking
Yeah, it's
four
fine.
more.
I'm thinking like 40.
Maybe 40?
Yeah.
I'm thinking a cool 30.
So yeah, Jeff, talk about the party. How many people are there?
I mean, it sounds like it's like everybody in the fucking
It's five. So they say it's
I didn't know
5,000.
the exact. I was gonna say thousands,
say-
but I didn't know the exact number.
I think they say it a couple of times. The tent fits 5,000, and then like when Drogo makes fun of him, 5,000 voices join together and laughter.
So
or
do you
something like
think
that.
this is like where they're gonna go to sleep then? Like his
Nah, because
he's
it
got,
says
like,
it's
his
like
own,
Khal
like,
Drogo's
house, like,
tent.
apartment
No,
tent,
because
too?
each Khalig has their own like living space. I'm pretty sure. Khalasar,
Well,
sorry.
she had her space too, right?
Yeah, she had a separate tent that she met
so.
Viserys in last time.
I think the
Yeah.
most important part about this tent is that they're like everything in this realm or across the planet that they live on is that the people that are important sit up top, and you just kind of go down levels depending on how important you actually are.
Well, and do you remember why Dany and Drogo have sex in front of everybody the first time? Because the Dothraki believe that everything of importance that
You
happens
do
in
it-
your
you
life
do it-
should be done under the open sky.
Right.
Well, yeah,
I thought that was just the
Daenerys
only way
makes
he
that
could get it
decision.
up.
You said in
doesn't she,
front.
though?
You said in front of everybody. That was when.
Well, you're right, but it was still like she goes out of the tent. She like doesn't she like lead him out of their private tent to do it? I think
Yeah.
that's like how it goes. Like they were about to fuck inside, and she's like, "No, let's go outside."
I thought that was a different time though.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
wasn't
know. I
at
thought
that
they
wasn't
fucked
at Dosh
outside, right?
Colleen though.
No, not here.
They were
That
just
was when
like,
she
"Hey,
got
let's
pregnant,
go."
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Daenerys
that's,
randomly was like,
that's
"Yo."
when Daenerys says that like, oh, everything that Dothraki does should be done under the open sky. That is like of important.
Okay.
So I don't know. I just thought that was cool. That's why that they have this tent off.
Yeah,
like, the
no,
roof
for
off the
sure.
tent.
I mean, they even talk about that they think the stars is just like a cow or like a Khalasar in the sky,
It's
right?
Yeah.
Horses and or each star's like a
Maybe just a
horse
horse.
made
Horse
not
made of
actual
fire.
people.
Yeah.
It's a horse made of fire, and they're like riding around the earth, pretty much.
Yep.
So here's a question that I missed a while ago while you were talking about it. But so Westeros, is that like a continent
yes.
on
Correct.
a world then? Okay.
Yeah.
And then we're in Essos right now, which is like East Continent.
So that's
So,
another
like-
continent.
We're in like if you would think about like Westeros being North America, we're in like Europe to Asia type deal.
But not that far or that far?
It's the narrow sea, so not that far.
Okay.
Yeah, not that far.
So it'd be like
Probably like,
England to Europe then kind of deal? Like it's like the English Channel?
I think it's wider than that, but
Okay.
it's not much.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jeff, what's going on before Viserys gets here? What's going on in this party? Like, paint the picture.
It's a raging party.
Everyone's drinking fermented goat milk or cow milk.
Yeah,
Cow
but she
milk.
doesn't want it because she's obviously pregnant, and her system is probably just very sensitive. So
She doesn't want to
but
throw up
she,
the heart,
She
dude.
sees
No, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
right, yeah. Well,
She's
she
like-
doesn't want, she doesn't want to fuck it all up because she's just about to give birth to like the goat of Dothraki. But she starts looking around for her. Like I said, she mentions like, oh, there's the two cows next to Khal Drogo, and then there are the Blood Riders, and then there's the people, and then there's kind of the old people way in the corner. And she starts looking for her brother because he should be here by now. It's kind of like when Simba's born and Mufasa's like looking for Scar, but Scar never came, type of deal.
It's been a minute since I've seen Lion King, but
I didn't even
Yeah,
sounds
me
like
too.
a
It's
good
like
analogy.
it's like the first scene of Lion King. Come on.
I don't remember that.
And-
But
I don't remember that at all.
Come on. The next scene is Mufasa going down to Scar and like, why weren't you at the ceremony?
I was
type
like
deal.
8, man.
I don't remember.
Well,
that
grow
either.
up and watch The Lion King. It's a great movie.
It is a great movie. I'm not
I'm
gonna.
an adult. I don't need to watch The Lion King.
You do.
I watch Disney movies
but-
all the time, man.
So she's
I'm
she's
so sorry.
scanning the crowd for her brother, and we talked about how pale and kind of white haired they are, that they should stick out like a sore thumb. But she can't see him, but she sees another white person, and that's Jorah. And she gets one of her handmaids to come bring him up, and she starts talking to him a little bit.
Yeah.
She's like, and he's telling him like, or telling her like, he's at the market like trying to get fucked up. Like that's all he
He's
does
in his
here.
cups right now. He's loose lipped, just talking shit on Viserys.
Yeah, he's pretty much like, look, man, this guy's pretty worthless. All he does is hang out and get drunk with these lowlifes and like,
Trying to steal your eggs, like
yeah. And she's like, well, he can have my eggs. That was a little upsetting. I was like, why? All he had to do was ask. I didn't even think they were worth anything. He's trying to buy free riders and sell swords for his army.
Danny thinks that's a horrible idea.
he
Why?
doesn't have any gold.
Because he doesn't have money and they're going to kill him.
And if
when
they find out that
they're-
he doesn't have any money,
Yeah.
then he's fucked. And what is Jorah's reasoning for why the? Well, I don't know. I guess it's not reasoning, but like when he says that she was gonna steal the eggs, she was like, "Why would he want the eggs? They're literally just like stones." And he's like, "Yeah, well, so are rubies and diamonds."
Yeah,
he's
they're
like,
rarer
"Dude,
than
they
that
have-
shit.
Well, they're like
They have
it's like the
fucked up
most
money for
rare.
those.
Didn't they tell her when she got them like that they were rare?
Yeah,
as
the
shit?
last
later
And,
tells
like,
her that they're like priceless. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. You're right. Like what Kyle said, Danny says like, I don't care. Like let him have him. Like he can have it. He's my brother and my king. And Jorah's like, well,
I think
he's your
even more-
brother.
Yeah, like you're kind of in charge now. Like you rank higher than him. She still
Danny-
doesn't understand it until the very end. She kind of does.
So Danny says, you do not understand, sir. My mother died giving birth to me, and my father and my brother Rhaegar even before that. I would never have known so much as their names if Viserys had not been there to tell me. He was the only one left, the only one. He's all I have. So like she feels like she owes him something, basically.
Yeah, well, he's her dad essentially, but he's such a piece of shit. He has her gaslighted to believe he is the most important thing in her life.
I think it's still kind of fucked up that she lets this happen. Because like, yeah, he's a dick,
No.
but like,
No way.
No,
Absolutely not.
She has
She
a
like
point
he
here.
threatened her and the baby.
she has a point here. Like Viserys had no reason to keep her alive, right? Like when Danny was born, Viserys was 8 years old. Like how?
wait,
like,
no reason to keep her. That's like she's a child. It's kind of like the Ned thing.
I agree, but if you're Viserys and you're thinking like, what is the best for me if I'm trying to take back the kingdom?
He's an 8-year-old
does Danny
kid.
Really,
He doesn't,
I know.
does he
but
understand
Danny,
that yet?
I got you, but like he's 20 now and she's still here. I mean, I guess she's
But it's
beneficial
also not
for
like
him
he
now.
has
Okay,
anything.
okay.
He doesn't have any
All right,
money.
all right. He fucking deserved it. He's a scumbag.
Which
I fucking
he
hate him
doesn't have-
too, but I'm just trying to be reasonable, I guess.
But it's not like he really has anything else. It's not like, oh, okay, I can offer now. Like, I've got money. I've got this. He doesn't have anything. That's why she's even worried. Like, why is he out looking for sellswords when he has no money to pay them?
Well, I think
they're just going to fucking kill
I
him.
think that's what Kyle said. Is what Kyle was kind of getting to is like, yeah, when he was young, she was like a kid. So like, you're not going to kill a kid when you are a kid. And then like by the time he's older, he realized like
He was also trying to, like, bang her.
well, he realized like
Yeah.
the only thing I have of value is my sister, right? The only thing that he has that he can like elevate himself is Danny, and that's exactly what he does. He sells her to a fucking tribe, thinking that it's like a
He's
trade.
using her the entire
Yeah.
time. He's using her.
Okay.
And that's even literally the first thing he says about her. Pretty much like when we first meet him back in the beginning is like, "You're just fucking in this for me."
Well,
And
he
he's
even says like,
"Pinch your
I would
nipples."
let. He's like,
Yeah.
he's like, I'd let all 100,000 men and their horses too. Fuck you. Right, he said something
Yeah.
like that. Like, I don't give a
Yeah.
fuck if I can get it all.
Nelson's trying to justify this dude.
All right, yeah, fuck this
No,
guy.
you're not. You're fine. Yeah.
I'm just trying to see it from Danny's perspective, I guess.
So hang on, before we get too far, we talked about my predictions beforehand, but we didn't talk about them during this episode.
okay,
yet.
yeah, go ahead. So
So go ahead.
this
You
was
said
this
it.
was actually before we started taking notes on Kyle's. I started taking notes on Kyle's prediction, so I didn't have anything. So right before this, I went back and I listened to the end of our non-spoiler section for the last Danny chapter. And Kyle, what was your prediction? We listened to it together.
So
before we
he had
started
just
recording.
slapped her, and I was kind of leaning towards death. I was kind of not leaning towards death, and then I guess the final prediction was I thought that he was going to give him half the army after this. But in my defense, he kind of makes a big scene here, and it's coming up. That's
For
kind of what
sure.
we're getting
Like-
at here.
like,
So
I
like
think-
this definitely amplifies anything he might have done before 1,000 times.
Yeah, like if we let you make a new prediction, like if I told you to stop reading after the
I
story starts
did
swinging
make
his
the
sword
prediction
around.
midway
Yeah,
through. It's
exactly.
kind of like the last one where I was like, "Oh fuck, I should have said Joffrey was Jamie's,"
God
and then
damn
this
it.
one was like, it was like, "Ah, fuck, he's about to die." Hopefully, I said he dies. That was pretty
So
much
like
how it
your
went.
predictions weren't bad, and I think if Viserys wouldn't have been such a dick here, I don't know if that's
It wasn't
I
over.
don't know.
Like he didn't kill him. This is how many days after that is this? Like the slap.
two
and all that.
months. 2 months. About
Yeah, so, like, he didn't kill him
maybe
yet.
not 2 months.
He didn't kill him.
She's been pregnant for 2 months, but
Either way, he didn't kill him right after that happened. Like he knows. I'm sure he knows about it, but
I don't think she had a. I don't think he knew.
don't
No,
think he
no,
knew?
no doubt in my mind.
she might not have said something to him. You might
I
be
think
right.
Kyle
But
would have killed him right away.
Cal would have. There's no doubt in my mind he would have just strangled his little bitch ass dragon.
yeah, but you were the one that tried to lead me off in my prediction, Jeff.
Well, come on, I gotta
You
throw you some
shouldn't be
curveballs.
poking me the wrong way. You should let me have my own predictions.
Well,
Just let
no,
him talk,
Jeff,
boys.
I'm
You
not
don't
going to
have to
say
guide him. You don't have to
for
rebuttal.
clarification for the viewers who haven't listened to Danny 4 in a while, what happened was Kyle's like, I think he's going to kill him. Or he's like, well, he can't kill him. Well, I guess he could kill him. And then Jeff was like, well, you can't have weapons in Phase Dothrak. And Kyle's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Maybe he just takes away his army or something like that. So, and Jeff didn't lie. He kills him without an actual weapon, right?
I did not lie.
him
I've
with
never
his
told a
belt.
lie.
kills him with his belt. Exactly. It's kind of funny. He gets what he got, or he gets from Drogo what he got from Dany, but just in a way worse way.
What did Dany do?
Dany hits him because Dany had like got all that fancy clothes for him and hits him in the face with the belt that he didn't want.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, yeah. So all right, getting back to the chapter after all that stuff, Kyle's prediction and everything. Basically, the last thing we talked about was Dany says like, "Oh, he's like the only family I have left." And Jorah's like, it doesn't matter anymore. Jorah's like, it doesn't fucking matter anymore. You're the fucking Khaleesi. Like, you're the baddest bitch in this town now. Like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like, the stallion that mounts the world rides within you. And Dany's like, I don't even know what the fuck that means, dude. Like, what does that even mean?
What is that? Everyone keeps chanting it.
And this is where Jorah finally tells her, like, what the actual prophecy is. Like, what the Dothraki believe the stallion that mounts the world is. And he says, the stallion is the cow of cows, promised in ancient prophecy, child. He will unite the Dothraki into a single Khalasar and ride to the ends of the earth, or so it was promised. All the people of the world shall be his herd. And Dany's like, oh, that's cool. I named him Rhaego.
So we forgot.
It's like so childish, like the way she like reacts to that, I think. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. She still doesn't understand.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand.
Yeah. I love it.
But we kind of skimmed over the part where they talk about the first man rides out of the pool or the womb of the world on a horse. Like he just comes out of this fucking hole in the ground.
Well, we said the first man and the first horse come from there.
I know we didn't talk about it though, like at all.
Ride straight.
I thought that was a pretty ridiculous take on the beginning there.
What's also kind of funny is like how about the womb of the world, Jikwi, Dany's handmaiden, has told Dany that there's no bottom. It's like a bottomless lake. Yeah. And Dany like takes the first step, and Dany takes the first step. She's like, "Well, there's mud here."
I feel mud. Yeah.
Do you think that only the Khaleesi step foot in it then?
Probably.
Like that,
yeah.
people actually believe that it's
in there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
Just pregnant Khaleesi's.
The womb of the world. Like that sounds pretty important, man.
Until somebody gets really drunk on mare's milk and go and takes a dump in the womb of the world.
Yeah.
Like Bobby Fong's pool.
It's dumb of it. Or like someone in Cancun's ocean just taking Donnie's.
Anything else on the womb of the world before we get back to this party? There was some cool stuff that we kind of skimmed over.
No, that was all I had. I was like, this dude riding out. That's how ingrained the horse is, I guess. These people are like, if there's no horses, there's no people, right? Like, and like I said earlier, the way they think the world ends is when the grass, the grass that the horses eat, like can't eat, takes over. It's like it has nothing to do with man survival. Just like all the horses would die, which basically is the end of the world for them. Which I don't know. It's cool how the different cultures have completely different and then it's just like the real world, right? Yeah.
So Jorah's response to the name that Dany tells him is like, oh, that's a name that the usurper will be scared of.
Robert's gonna be crying. Yeah.
And then this is enter Viserys, stage right Viserys,
drunk as shit, Viserys. Dirty, stained.
Dany could tell that he found his wine and something that passed for courage.
Yeah, his hair's all fucked up.
That's a great line.
So yeah, he's wearing pretty fancy clothes, scarlet silks and everything, but it's like pretty
They're
nasty and worn up. Yeah, because there's no way to wash his shit, and he doesn't really have like. I doubt he has a road. I also doubt he has a very deep wardrobe, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially after they made him walk for a couple of days.
So it's crazy how like all the Dothraki are like the no weapons thing is so like such a aspect of this city that Viserys comes in, doesn't even say anything, is just kind of walking kind of fast and is obviously drunk. But all like Dany says, like all 5,000 people like notice him and the music stops and people start murmuring like, oh fuck, this guy's got a sword and shit like that.
I mean, come on, dude. This is like it's like number one rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, it's weird how Dany doesn't think anything too bad of it until he actually pulls it out. Like, is it okay to wear a sword?
Did he come through? Like, remember when they gave up all the weapons? Right? Wasn't that a point in the prior chapters? Did he keep his?
This is kind of like we kind of had like a weird, not an argument, but like it was weird because Glow Jeff and I thought that they gave up their weapons as soon as they got there, but you were right. Like you pointed out, like no, they didn't, and you were right. Like they actually enter Vaes Dothrak and they don't give up their weapons until they get to Drogo's manse or like Drogo, probably this tent, right? So yeah, the rule is you can't have weapons, but like they kept their weapons on them, and there was a certain point, like when they got to somewhere, they probably like got to Drogo's house and like put them all in a closet, right? That's basically like what I think it amounts to.
So do you think he got it out of the closet, or did he?
I think he just never gave it. Yeah.
And
I don't think anybody really cared as long as you're not like flashing it around. Like I don't even think. I think if he doesn't pull it out, he might be okay here. I don't know exactly the technicalities, But that's what
No,
kind of
no,
what it
I
seems
don't
like.
think that they were ready to kill him right away. It was when everything started escalating is when it was like, all right, I've had enough of this shit.
Yeah. So he comes in. Danny notices like, oh, this is not gonna go well. She tells Jorah like, go over there, stop him, tell him if he wants the eggs, he can fucking have the eggs. And Viserys like, where's my sister? I've come for the feast. How dare you eat like before the king like got here? Like nobody eats before the king. And Danny thinks to herself like, yeah, nobody can understand this guy, but like he's obviously drunk and nobody's gonna like what he's doing, even if they don't understand exactly what he's saying. Right. And the thing is, I agree that maybe Khal Drogo doesn't understand a lot of the common tongue, but as a Khal, and Khal basically means king, I bet you he knows the word for king. And Viserys says it like 3 times.
Do you think
here.
that's what he considers himself though? As a king? You think Khal's king?
If Drogo asked Danny like, oh, what's the Westerosi word for Khal?
She would
What's
say
the translation?
King, most likely.
Lord.
Yeah.
So here's
maybe Lord, but probably king.
the other side of that, though. Didn't he
But there's
know
multiple
that
of the same.
he knew that he was going to make? That was like the whole point was he was supposed to make Viserys king again.
Exactly. So and Viserys says this fucking all the time. So I think king is probably one of the words that Khal Drogo knows. And he says, how dare you presume to eat without me? No one eats before the king. No one eats before the dragon. So, I mean, I guess he only says it once, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I just tried to look it up. It's a warlord, is what
Okay.
Dothraki warlord.
Okay.
But
It's
that's
a
what
king.
a Khal.
They're pretty much generals or like lords, like Nelson is saying. Like they're equivalent. They're different.
Badass dude. He's a
Yeah,
badass
he's a
dude.
badass
That's in
Different
charge of the
tiers
group.
of the
I
or
would
they're
call
the same
him a
tier
warden.
of different systems. How's that?
He's a
Yeah.
warden.
So, so Jorah goes over to him and he like whispers something to Viserys, and then
He's probably like, cool off, dude. Like, fucking, this isn't the place for this.
I think the best.
I
thing
think
you
he's
could
being
say-
more dickish about it.
Well, I think he's being kind of dickish. I don't. There's no way to know because Viserys is like gonna react like an asshole no matter what. So it's kind of hard to tell exactly what he said. But if I'm him, again, when Danny says what happened when Danny told Dorea last episode or last chapter, like, hey, go ask him to come to dinner. She commands
He
him
was
to come to
pissed.
dinner, right?
Yeah.
Danny says, go tell him that he can have the eggs if
She
he wants.
changed.
I think if Jorah goes up and is like, dude, you can have the eggs. Danny's cool. Just take the eggs. I don't know if he reacts this way. I bet you it's more like what Kyle said, where he's like, dude, cool the fuck off. Which,
Dude,
again,
I don't
I'm
know.
not
I
blaming
think he would have
Jorah.
been.
I'm not blaming Jorah, but I think Jorah probably could have helped the situation a lot more than he did.
I think he would have
Yeah.
been like, give me the eggs. I'm the king. I'll just take the damn
Oh,
things.
yeah, that's true. I can see that too. Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah, Viserys is such a cock.
He's such a cock. He's such a cocko.
So that's what he's like, no one
Callback.
touches the dragon. And this is when Danny notices Cal like whisper something to the other cows and they like grin and start laughing. He's definitely gonna be like, dude, watch me fuck this dude up. Or like
I still don't know if he's at death yet. Like,
I think he's just talking
he's
shit, like
Yeah.
calling him Sorefoot King.
Like,
or
look
something.
at this pussy, or like,
Yeah.
or, watch this, because he's about to get up and completely humiliate him or something. Yeah. So what does Drogo do, Jeff? What's Drogo do to Cal here? Because Drogo or Viserys goes up to Cal Drogo and is like, oh, sorry. So Viserys goes up to Cal Drogo and he's like,
yeah,
well,
where's
like,
my
why
spot,
did you start
man?
this feast without me? Like, I'm here
Yeah,
to
he's
join
like,
the feast.
give me my seat up here on the top. And
He's like,
Cal's
you
like,
don't sit here. Seat for a walking king and back with old people.
Yeah, so he's like your place is there, and it sucks for fucking Jorah, who has to translate this. It sounds like later on Drogo speaks for himself in the common tongue, but this Jorah has to translate, and he says, yeah, your seat is there, and he points. Viserys glanced where Cal was pointing, at the back of the long hall in the corner by the wall, deep in the shadows, so better men would not need to look upon them, sat the lowest of the low, raw, unbloodied boys, old men with clouded eyes and stiff joints, the dim-witted and the maimed, far from the meat and farther from the honor. And Viserys like, that's no place for a king. And Drogo says, is place for Sorefoot King. Bring cart for Khal Ragnar. It's like, dude, and everyone just loses their shit and is like cracking
fucking
up at
cooks him.
Viserys. He does.
he
does.
he straight cooked him.
And this is definitely in the common tongue, right? Like the way
Yeah.
he talks, it's like, is place for Sorefoot King. I don't know, dude. This Khal Drogo is one of those. A lot of the characters are pretty. I said this before. A lot of characters are pretty good at like not picturing the character from the show. But I think if you picture Jason Momoa as Khal Drogo, it's completely fine. Like I think he is
it's
100%
fine, yeah.
Khal Drogo. Yeah, such a badass dude. And how's Viserys? So what happens next, Kyle?
What happens next is he fucking whips it out, his sword. He's waving that shit around.
Not cool. There's like a huge commotion, and like him and Jorah get into a little tussle. And Jorah knocks into his ass first. And he pulls his sword out from the ground.
That's when he pulls out his sword. Yeah.
Starts flailing it around.
I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear. He did get bitched one time before he even pulls the sword out. He get bitched,
which is kind of dangerous for Jorah to do that.
I think he knows he's got it.
Yeah. I think Jorah knows at this point.
Well, that's the thing. It's like he's in this room of all these people, and like
they respect him too. They respect Jorah. So if he whips a sword out of Jorah, like he knows.
Yeah. Well,
everyone's got his back.
Nobody respects Viserys or Viserys. I've been saying both, I'm sure, but nobody respects him whatsoever. They all think he's a joke. So like I think of course everybody is going to be ready to wipe his ass out.
Yeah. So he pulls it out. He pulls out his sword and he starts like waving above his head. He stands up and then he like walks towards Dany, and Dany's
cuts
thinking
his way through nobody.
Like,
and Dany's waving his sword around.
And Dany's thinking like, this isn't even his fucking sword. He's like, the borrowed blade that Magister Illyrio had given him to make him seem more kingly. So he gets to Dany. Oh, well, as soon as he pulls his sword out, Dany, what does she say? Dany gave a wordless cry of terror. She knew what a drawn sword meant here, even if her brother did not. So I think that's when he signs his death warrant, right?
Yeah.
As soon as he pulls this out. So that's when, but her yelling, like as soon as she realizes, like, oh fuck, he just killed himself. She kind of like screams.
I think she could have got him out of it up until after he pokes her with it, because I mean, even she's like, the blade, you must not.
Yeah, like come, just throw the sword down. Come sit with me.
Yeah, it's not quite too late. Yeah. It's right on the edge, but like, please, you're right.
The point is like her making noise is like what alert, like he didn't even know where she was up until like he pulls his sword out and she's like, oh fucking idiot, and he's like, oh sister.
Oh shit, there you are.
Yeah, so but you're right. She's like, the blade you must not. So this, like the quote I have starts at like the next line down. If you guys want to start here, it goes to the end of the chapter. Long quote. That's a good one.
Do as she tells you, fool.
We need Dany, Viserys, and Drogo, I think.
I'm already like perfect on the Drogo accent, so.
The blade, you must not.
She begged him.
Please, Viserys. It is forbidden. Put down the sword and come share my cushions. There's drink, food. Is it the dragon eggs you want? You can have them. Only throw away your sword.
Do as she tells you, you fool, Sir Jorah shouted, before you get us all killed. Viserys laughed.
They can't kill us. They can't shed blood here in the sacred city, but I can.
He laid the point of his sword between Daenerys' breasts and slid it downward over the curve of her belly.
I want what I came for,
he told her.
I want the crown he promised me. He bought you, but he never paid for you. Tell him I want what I bargained for, or I'm taking you back. You and the eggs both. He can keep his bloody fool. I'll cut the bastard out and leave it for him.
The sword point pushed through her silks and pricked at her navel. Viserys was weeping, she saw. Weeping and laughing, both at the same time. This man who had once been her brother. Distantly, as from far away, Dany heard her handmaid Jhiqui sobbing in fear, pleading that she dare not translate, that the cow would bind her and drag her behind his horse all the way up the Mother of the Mountains. She put her arm around the girl.
Don't be afraid,
she said.
I shall tell him.
She did not know if she had enough words. Yet when she was done, Khal Drogo spoke a few brusque sentences in Dothraki, and she knew he understood. The son of her life stepped down from the high bench.
What did he say?
The man who had once been her brother asked her, flinching. It had grown so silent in the hall that she could hear the bells in Khal Drogo's hair, chiming softly with each step he took. His blood riders followed him, like three copper shadows. Daenerys had gone cold all over.
He says you shall have a splendid golden crown that men shall tremble to behold.
Viserys smiled and lowered his sword. That was the saddest thing. The thing that tore at her afterwards. The way he smiled.
That was all I wanted,
he said.
What was promised?
When the son of her life reached her, Dany slid an arm around his waist. The cow said a word, and his blood riders leapt forward. Hotho seized the man who had been her brother by the arms. Hago shattered his wrist with a single sharp twist of his huge hands. Cleho pulled the sword from his limp fingers. Even now, Viserys did not understand.
No,
he shouted.
You cannot touch me. I am the dragon, and I will be crowned.
Khal Drogo unfastened his belt. The medallions were pure gold, massive and ornate, each one as large as a man's hand. He shouted a command. Cook slaves pulled a heavy iron stew pot from the fire pit, dumped the stew onto the ground, and returned the pot to the flames. Drogo tossed in the belt and watched without expression as the medallions turned red and began to lose their shape. She could see fires dancing in the onyx of his eyes. A slave handed him a pair of thick horsehair mittens, and he pulled them on, never so much as looking at the man. Viserys began to scream, the high, wordless scream of a coward facing death. He kicked and twisted, whimpering like a dog and wept like a child, but the Dothraki held him tight between them. Ser Jorah had made his way to Dany's side. He put a hand on her shoulder. Turn away, my princess. I beg you.
No.
She folded her arms across the swell of her belly, protectively. At last, Viserys looked at her.
Sister, please. Dany, tell them. Make them. Sweet sister.
When the gold was half melted and starting to run, Drogo reached into the flames, snatched out the pot.
Crown!
He roared.
Here! A crown for God King!
And upended the pot over the head of the man who had once been her brother. The sound Viserys Targaryen made when that hideous iron helmet covered his face was like nothing human. His feet hammered, a frantic beat against the dirt floor, slowly stopped. Thick globs of molten gold dripped down onto his chest, setting the scarlet silk to smoldering. Yet no drop of blood was spilled. He was no dragon, Dany thought, curiously calm. Fire cannot kill a dragon.
She's over
So
it.
Drogo made it onto the frag count list this episode. with style.
With style. He gets style.
We got
for
the
sure.
gold curse, Nelson.
Isn't there
The
something,
gold Sea of Thieves.
Oh yeah, dude. Fuck, I need that.
didn't we look this up, Nelson? Or isn't it like you can't melt gold over like a open pot or an open flame?
George is pretty good. I feel like we have looked this up, but normally George is pretty good about scientific stuff. I'll do a quick Google. Real
How
quick.
else do you smell
Kyle, what
gold?
did you think
How do you
of?
smell gold?
But you could like
So, Kyle, you
put a
didn't know
clothes
this was
fire,
coming at
like
all?
make it a lot hotter than it actually.
Like the way you fucking melt iron. You can't melt iron on a fucking stove, can you?
Yeah, but that's not really a
Fucking iron
stove. That's not a
pot.
fucking stove. That's a hot iron pot
It's-
over a fire.
So gold melts at 1,948 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, come on.
Can you melt gold in the fire?
How hot does a campfire get?
Pure gold is simply
What'd you say?
too tough to melt with an ordinary fire. Pure gold has a melting point of
930
1945.
degrees. It's
The average
Yeah,
cooking
but is
fire,
this an-
even with good coals, can reach approximately 650 to 700 degrees. So no, it doesn't sound.
This is wait, say the gold melting point again.
1978, 1975.
Okay, this says campfires can reach an average temperature of about 930 degrees, but this varies depending on the size of the fire. Medium-sized fires can reach 1100 degrees, while fires as big as those huge bonfires you see on TV during
This
beach
isn't a
parties
6-foot fire.
can reach over 2,000.
Dude,
Dude,
it's
there's
a
5,000
cook-
people in this tent, and
Come
there's
on.
only
You're
3
telling me a
fires.
tent?
It's probably a
they
huge
put a
fucking
fucking
fire.
cook pot.
Yeah, it's not. That's
Okay,
not
you're
a. That's not a 10-foot tall
It's not a
fire.
beach
Either
bonfire.
way,
Yeah.
nothing has reached that
2000,
temperature yet.
it's 2000.
Maybe it's not pure gold. It's probably got like a little bit of bullshit in there, right?
said pure
They don't have a
gold.
way to make pure gold. Yeah, but they don't.
He's
Danny's
wrong.
thought it was pure
No, he's
gold.
wrong. George is wrong.
Danny thought
This
it was
is
pure gold.
one. He's wrong. It's fine. It's he advanced the story with it.
So here's the thing.
I think he melted it. Big fire.
If he would have poured a belt of like a half or quarter melted gold onto his head, would that have been quite the point that he was trying to make here?
Well, that's what it is, right? Like, didn't
It
I say he
starts
takes
to
it off?
rise.
and
Yes,
the
but
gold
what I'm saying
melted?
is that
Still,
if it wasn't hot enough to melt it, it was
Right.
just like slightly soft gold medallions on this belt that hit him in the head. That's not quite the same point as turning this dude's.
Dude, even if you melted gold to the softness of Play-Doh and poured that on my head, I'm sure that'd be fucking, first off, heavy as shit. So it's not like you can just pull that off, and hot as fucking shit, right? Like, even if it's not melted, it's hot as shit. I get what you're saying. Maybe it's not completely
He also
melted.
puts
in
the
the
pot
show.
on his head.
This is a fucking awesome scene. Yeah, he puts the entire.
Yeah,
pot
And
on
they
his
even
head.
said
it's
that
just
in there.
Drogo with two little like wolfskin mitts like pouring it. So it's not
Horsehair
Yeah,
mittens.
horse
whatever.
skins,
It's
sorry,
not
I
this
was
huge ass
no wolves.
fucking pot on this bonfire that they. Come on,
Drogo's pretty strong, dude. I don't know.
come on,
Could be big.
get off this hill, Glow. You can't die on this hill.
Kyle, what do you think? Okay, so maybe slightly
I'll die on
unrealistic.
this
Kyle,
hill,
what do,
Jeff.
what do you think of the death?
Come on, he could have been the king.
I mean, it was he kinged him.
He was the rightful king.
Kingdom. No,
Like,
he wasn't.
Even though he was an asshole, he was the rightful
heir.
king.
He was the heir.
That's
If
what
you're
he
going, if you're going
thought.
by succession, and not whoever has the biggest balls and just takes it, succession says he was the king.
Tough shit.
Doesn't seem Kyle
Nobody's
really
gonna
cares
care.
about him.
This is my prediction. Nobody cares like that. Nobody's
So
gonna
did
be
you know
mad
this
at
was coming at all?
Drogo for him killing the king.
So what were you expecting of Viserys' fate? Like,
Well, I mean, I didn't think he was gonna make it that long. I didn't think he was gonna be kinged again by any means.
You didn't think he was going to get back to Westeros?
Yeah, we
You
talked
don't
about
think
this a
he
little
wasn't
bit
gonna win?
beforehand, and we shouldn't have. But like, I never really thought he was a valued person by any means. Like, even if he did make it to Westeros, I don't think that people would let him become king, regardless.
yeah, I mean, Illyrio
Like, I
was
think
really
he
the
was
only
such
one
an
that hyped him
asshole
up.
that. What's that?
Illyrio was really the only one that hyped him up ever.
Yeah, nobody liked him, like, at all.
No.
Okay, so Jeff brought up a good point I didn't even think about. What's Illyrio's take on this, right? And
He doesn't
Again,
care.
so remember the Arya chapter where him and Varys were down near the Dragon Skulls?
Yeah.
Their whole thing was we need to make war in Westeros so that there's like chaos here and we can bring the Targaryens back. You don't think he gives a fuck that Viserys is dead? Like, that wasn't his golden ticket? Like, he literally housed these people at his fucking super expensive house. We talked about this,
Yeah.
like, in the first Dany chapter. Like, why does he not sell them out?
Yeah, it was like
Because
a
he
year
thinks
and
he
a
has
half
something
ago.
to gain from them.
You're right.
You're right. Does he still have something to gain from them now that Viserys is gone, though? That's the thing. It's
Yes,
like,
I think
kinda
he's
fucks
still got
Illyria's
Danny.
plan.
He's still going to be riding the Danny side of this, but you're right. It's a little more tumultuous. It's not as clear of a path, but he's still going to be okay because he thinks he owns. He doesn't. I think he knows better than I think he owns the Dothraki, but at the same time, like, I think he knows that he's on Danny's good side.
And he can probably
Leverage that.
yeah.
It doesn't mean as much, though, because, again, in modern times, it would mean equally as much. But in these times, men are valued way more than women. So I don't know if, like, I get what you're saying, but I don't know if Danny's is valued. Like, even though Danny is obviously better than, like, cooler and, like, more level-headed and seems to be, like pretty cool. Like, I don't know, pretty cool. Like, better than Viserys.
Dude,
it
she's
doesn't
13.
mean that, like, she's worth as much as Viserys. Like, she's definitely not worth as much as Viserys.
And I don't think it's even something that, like, Westeros would. Westeros isn't feeling the Dothraki right now because they're afraid of water. And
also,
they're not going to be afraid of a woman.
Don't have a fucking, and the Dothraki don't think, like, don't even, like, the series been trying to get this army for how fucking long, and Drogo had nothing, like, wanted nothing to do with it. Maybe he was gonna hold up his end of the bargain after the fucking ceremony, but fucking Viserys is such an idiot, he can't even wait that long, right before he goes and gets himself killed. But now that he's gone, is there even any motivation for
Kyle to go back
them
there.
to go to Westeros? Exactly. Like, these are the kind of, like, I don't know. It's weird.
What happens next with Danny, Kyle?
So here's where I'm torn, right? So from the show, and this is unfair, but I don't ever remember anybody talking about her having a kid. So don't speak because I don't know for sure, but it sounds like something happens to this child to me because of that knowledge. And that's kind of, like I said, it's unfair.
Do you know of, quick question, do you know of Khal Drogo in the show either?
She's not going to kill Khal Drogo.
I'm not saying she's going to kill him, but I'm saying, like, Khal Drogo isn't in, like, you haven't heard of Khal Drogo in, like, the later seasons of the show either.
How do you know that?
Right?
I don't know that.
You don't know about the kid. If you don't know about the kid in the show,
eight?
you don't know about Khal Drogo in the show,
Yeah,
right?
people
Well, I
still
mean, I
talk
know-
about Khal Drogo.
Jason Momoa
Nelson, I'm
is,
gonna be
and
your
like I know
ass.
he, like,
I mean,
That's a spoiler right there.
I'm just saying,
No,
if
it's
you,
not.
I'm just saying,
He's
if you don't know about the
posing
kid, then you
a-
don't know. If you don't know about the
he's
kid, you don't know
posing a
about Khal
hypothetical.
Drogo.
he posed
But
a
I-
hypothetical.
I mean, I didn't think I wasn't ready to say that he was going to die yet. I guess I thought he was around longer
And
than
I'm
this.
not saying that. I get my point is, like, if you think something's bad is going to happen to the baby because the baby's not around in the show, I'm saying, does the same apply to everybody else who isn't around in the show?
It's not that even. Like, it's like I don't think that I've heard anything.
what do you
about
really
her having
what do
a
you know
child.
about Danny
It's
in the show? Let's just lay it out on the table. So we
not much. but I don't. I know that I've never heard mention of Danny's child.
Because what I know about what you know about the show is Ned dies and
But
you
like,
saw
I mean, I
season
know
8.
a lot of the
I know
characters'
Danny's child and
names.
I know Dro
I know,
Rogo.
like,
Yeah, I get what
he
you're
was
saying.
never
but I know
mentioned.
that
There
you
was
know
never a
about-
child mentioned in any of that.
Was Khal Drogo mentioned in season 8?
That's not what I'm saying, though.
That's what
I
Nelson's
know,
saying.
but my point is just because the kid isn't mentioned in the show doesn't mean that, like, first off, the show and the book are different, but just because the kid isn't mentioned doesn't mean that, like, something bad happened, right? We don't know if anything bad happened to Khal Drogo. We don't know if anything bad happened. There's a ton of characters that are mentioned early on that don't show up in season 8, right?
But what I'm saying is, like,
And yeah,
I'm
some of
talking
them
about
bad stuff
seasons
happens too.
1 to 8. You're just talking about season 8. Like, so I'm saying that
Because
through the whole
that's what you
time-
saw.
What?
You didn't see the whole time. You don't know if the baby's mentioned in season 5 or season 6. You saw season 8.
Yes, but I'm on the internet. I talk to people. I know a lot of little shit about nothing, and so that like that's something I feel like I would have heard at some point. So I feel like something's going to happen to this child at some point. I know it's not going to be the level of the prophecy.
Okay, so Danny.
Or that's my opinion as of right now.
Let's just move on from that topic. Danny's in Doth. What is it?
Dothraki.
She's pregnant.
Oh yeah.
She's something's going to happen through the pregnancy. We can assume, right? Good, bad, indifferent. Do they move? Do they start moving back west? What's your thought on their kind of campaign?
So where is Cal from? Back to Nelson's map.
They're just from like they just
That
are
area.
nomads.
It's a
So all
huge
of
area,
Essos,
and they just travel.
that map I showed, all of basically Essos, except for the very coast, is basically open plains. That's where all the cows roam and just do their fucking shit.
Gathering riders.
So again, just a geographic thing. They're pretty. We don't know. The map cuts off. We don't know what's too much further to the east of Vaes Dothrak. We do know there's like a huge mountain range, and then there's Ashai, which they've mentioned a few times in this book before, which is like a weird kind of mystical city where the ghost grass grows on the other side of that mountain range to the east. But we don't really know what's past Ashai. We don't know if it's water. Like, probably the world is round. We don't know. Nobody's ever like done that. There's actually a few mentions that nobody, like later in the books, that nobody knows what's west of Westeros. So,
Essos.
probably again, right? If the world is round, that's what's going to make sense. That's what's west of Westeros. But yeah, I guess like to Jeff's question, and like back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, is like with the series gone, what's the motivate? Like, how is Westeros involved in Dany's storyline at all now?
Well, I think she's still going to complete his quest. She still wants vengeance for her brother and her family.
So she's going to try and like convince. So is she going to try and rule, or is she going to convince the cow like, yo, dude, you can take. Trust me, you're strong enough. You can take all this shit.
I think she's still kind of meek, so I think she's still going to push it to Cal. But eventually, when whatever happens to Khal Drogo, that I know happens to Khal Drogo now because of Nelson's spoilers, she's gonna continue. No, I think there's gonna be a turning point where she's gonna then say, "Wait a second, I can do this." She's not there yet.
Question: if something happens to Khal Drogo, how does she not end up with the rest of these fucking crones then?
Because she's strong. She's not them.
Okay. All right.
She has royal blood, man. They didn't.
They're all queens. They're all Khaleesi's.
But she is the queen of Westeros.
Okay.
Queen's blood.
I don't know. I don't know what else. What other predictions
let's
we can
sign
get
off.
here?
Let's sign them off.
I think that's pretty much it. Oh, I did have one thing at the end of my notes. Earlier in the books, you were saying that like normally the kind of books you like are like fantasy books, but normally like way heavier fantasy. Like we have not seen any fucking magic. This is basically historical fiction up to this point, right?
Yeah.
What are you thinking of the book so far? Like you were kind of hesitant early on.
I mean, like, so I've said this before, but like the way we're reading them kind of hurts that. I mean, I don't hate reading them, but I think at least now the way it is I'm kind of trained to not want to keep reading. Like, if that makes sense. And so this is behind the curtain, but like we read a chapter yesterday and then we read one today and you think, oh, this is the perfect thing. Like finally I get to read two back to back, but they're about two completely different stories at different times.
I guess the reason,
and so they didn't.
The reason I wanted to ask you is like your thoughts on the book now is because both of these past two chapters have kind of had they both had kind of like big, like, oh, holy shit moments.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
And I'm not saying that's
like
every chapter doesn't have that, but
if I didn't enjoy any of this, I wouldn't be a part of this.
well, I mean, you enjoy the pleasure of my company. That's
Nobody
all.
enjoys the pleasure of your company.
Really, that's why we're all here. Be serious.
Yeah.
For Kyle's company.
Would you say, Kyle, and I know it's kind of hard to think about it this way, but if you were reading this book like a normal person without doing a podcast, I get that. I don't think you would have I think you probably would have given up on this book before this point.
I don't think so. No, I don't think I didn't like it that much. I think I would have read it. I'm not one to stop reading a book.
Yeah, I mean,
halfway.
The beginning is always the builder, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, I was hoping you were gonna say, yeah, I would have stopped reading it, and I would have said, would you have been hooked if you got this far? But I guess
no. I mean, I would have. I don't. There's nothing about this
like,
that I hate.
I feel like it's finally starting to pick
and like
up.
the other side of it is, and I've said this before as well, is like it helps to have these discussions because like there's definitely stuff that I missed, and it was even not even like spoiler stuff that you pointed out, but it was just like stuff that like this person is this person and that kind of thing. And
most people, if they're reading this book for the first time at this point, have no idea who. If I went to somebody who had just got to this point, I was like, hey, who's Illyrio? They'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like that kind of stuff is like
when Arya was in the canals listening to Varys and Illyrio, I had no idea who she was listening to.
Well, me either until we went into that one a little deeper.
We didn't feed it to you. We just reread it and you got him off the reread.
Yeah, but the yeah, so even just the simple thing of like who is this person? When have we seen them before? Kind of stuff. Even when it's spelled out in the book, it really helps to read it like this.
I hope our fans agree.
All right, bye, Kyle.
All 20 of them.
All right, I think that's all we got for this sode. Thank you, Kyle. We'll see you on the next one.
No spoilers. Next next chapter is another really good chapter. I would say on par with.
It's another Ned. So is this the end of Ned?
Get excited. Bye, Kyle.
That's my prediction. Ned dies next chapter.
We'll find out next week.
It's not the end of the book. It's like 3/4 of the way into the book.
Bye, Kyle.
See you later, Kyle. Great hanging out, bud. We'll see you on the next episode.
Good night, or later, guys.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
See you later, Kyle. Great hanging out, friend. Hope you don't get COVID. Now into the spoilers section of Daenerys 5. Guys, what are your hot takes for this sode?
Glow, before we get into the spoilers, I want to say something. We were just talking about it before we started recording. I think, and I want to see what the fans think about this. I think, and Jeff, because you didn't really weigh in while we were talking about it. If Glow wouldn't have said anything when I brought up Khal Drogo while Kyle was making his predictions, do you think Kyle would? And again, I think I do admit it was risky to bring up. And I was thinking to myself, like, should I even say this? I was trying to steer him away from something bad happens to the kid. But to my credit, there's a ton of characters that are in the earlier books that don't show up in the. So
this is
what Kyle has seen is part of season 8.
This is what I'll say. It was definitely dangerous to bring up Drogo specifically. It was definitely dangerous to bring it up right after he said the baby's gonna die. I think it's the next question I ask is, okay, Kyle, how much do you really know about Dany from your knowledge of the show? Which he would have said, nothing. She's gonna burn the city, and I just don't know of the baby being mentioned, so I think he's gonna die. And I think we probably would have been smarter to leave it at that, or we could have been like, look, there's a lot of story left to go. Like, a lot of shit's gonna be happening. It was definitely risky to.
It was risky to bring it up, and you're right. I probably could have phrased it a better way and just been like, "Hey, what do you know about Dany?" And I was gonna say, like, do you? Even
I think
know
it would have been even safer to just been like, "Hey, look, I know what you saw in season 8. Like, I don't even know if
it's different than the books and all that shit."
You're right, Glenn. That's what I should have just gone with. That is the but. That's always a safe way to say, like, "Hey, you don't
know shit."
But he was. But again,
he's right.
But he's right.
The kid does that. That's what I'm saying. Just let him talk, let him go, and then, like Jeff said, what do you know about Dany? Okay.
I think you're right, Glo. I think when Kyle makes a correct prediction, I feel like sometimes
try to
steer him astray.
Dissuade him.
Yeah, you tried way too hard.
And I think this time, I don't think it's 100% my fault. I'm gonna say 40% my fault, 60%.
I don't think it's 60 me. Maybe 20.
0% me, because I tried my hardest.
I think Jeff said like nothing.
No. Jeff was
tried backing
me
you up.
Yeah. So I think maybe I'll agree to 50-50, but I'm not taking majority rule on this one. I think if you would have
Glow's reaction was
Didn't
probably
help.
worse than Nelson's question.
I don't think
but,
so. I don't think it helped.
I mean, if you don't react at all, we just kind of it mellows out and
Jeff is really good at segueing out of things where he think like there's been a couple other times where I've gotten us into sticky situations kind of like that, and Jeff is pretty good at like segueing off pretty easily. I feel like I'm pretty good too by like bringing up something that doesn't matter. Like when Kyle was trying to predict like what Jon was going to become in the Night's Watch, and I was like, he was like, well, he might not be a ranger now that you asked me that, right? Because like sometimes the act of asking a question points to the fact that it's going to be not what you expect, right? Like when we're like, what do you think Jon's going to be? Like the obvious answer is a ranger, and if we don't say anything, he's obviously going to think ranger.
And that's why I think we should just let him live that. Live the life of
But I think
ignorance.
in that case, I think I did a pretty good job of realizing that like, okay, this is kind of a leading question. And when he said, well, maybe that you said that he's going to be a builder, and I said, well, is there currently a first ranger? Like is Benjen Stark still technically a first ranger? And then he thought about it, and by mentioning that, my point, what I was trying to do is make Kyle think, holy shit, could Jon get named first ranger? Which kind of brings him back to the ranger thought. I don't know. It's tricky. I'm not saying it's. I'm not trying to blame you, Glow. Like I'll take equal blame.
You were
on
trying
this
to
one.
blame me.
I was. But now that I'm saying it out loud, I'll take equal blame. It's fucking hard. It's hard doing like the end of the episodes where we're trying to pull. Because like if we don't,
You're trying to get answers from him for sure.
If we don't ask
It's
him
tough.
anything, he's not gonna say anything. So we kind of got to lead him on, and like the stuff that like we want him to get predictions on. Sometimes the stuff that's like so obscure that you would never bring it up on your own, right? Like you would never think to predict that Jon isn't gonna be a ranger because it's so obvious he's gonna be a ranger.
Yeah.
So it's hard to get predictions like that, but like I guess you're right. Like some of the stuff we should just let him go, and it's just known that he thinks Jon's.
And I like pointed questions, like you said, like they got to be careful. Like we got to steer them in the right direction, but it's sometimes going to be tough to get the right question out so that he has a full answer for us and we can write something down for him. Like sometimes you're like, all right, what does Daenerys do? I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Like it's tough right now.
Now I'm pissed at myself because I'm pretty sure there's like 2 chapters where Drogo is like injured but not dead, right? Like where he gets that cut and it's like not that bad. Now I feel like as soon as he gets that cut, Kyle's gonna be like, oh, he's gonna die from this one, right? Because we kind of fed it to him. I'll take credit. I fed it to him.
Because you were saying he's not mentioned in the show, and that to me was like, dude, people talk about him all the time. Like Khal Drogo, he could still be in season 8. He just missed him or something in the 2 episodes he saw.
Yeah, you're right. Because the problem was it, and I kind of totally, like Dave and Dan, I kind of forgot that the Dothraki were a thing in season 8. We kind of forgot. So my backup plan was going to be like, do you even see any Dothraki in season 8? But we do. And I don't know if Kyle saw it or not, but we fucking do a bunch of times, even though they shouldn't be there. But fuck, I'll talk about season 8 too much. All right.
Let's get into the spoilers. I don't have a thing.
Before we get into spoilers,
fans weigh in for sure.
Fans, let us know what you think about how we're handling the Kyle prediction thing. But jumping in spoilers, Jeff, you got nothing?
I just kind of sped read and.
Like, yeah, we were running late today. We decided to do this one last minute, so
I didn't really pick up on anything as I first read.
I got 2 or 3 small things. Glow, you got anything?
I have 2 notes. The one I totally forget right now. The other is the whole.
So you not actually noted?
I make notes in my brain, but I have too much wine in my system now. So the one is actually about that mountain that rides inside her. Is it currently inside her, or is it a kid that she has in the future, or is it her herself? Is like my question.
The one thing
the mountain that rides,
or the stallion that mounts the world. Sorry.
The thing that I think is weird is, I don't know if you guys remember this, Rogo does appear as a grown adult
in a dream, right?
In the House of the Undying dream. She sees Drogo and Rogo together, and Rogo. Well, we don't know if it's Rogo. We don't know if it's Rhaego, but it's like a really tall, muscular, copper-skinned Dothraki with white hair. So,
oh wow,
most people assume it's like what Rogo would have been. Also,
that would have been fucking crazy.
Even if he thinks Rogo's gonna die, I doubt he knows how Rogo. Like, I doubt he
Drogo
really predicts.
Or
Rhaego, sorry,
Rhaego. Rhaego dies because he tries to save Drogo.
But like, do you remember how he's born with like scales and a tail?
Yeah,
and the wings of a bat. He's like a dragon, basically.
Who?
Yeah.
Rogo.
Rhaego.
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 When is he born like that?
This is like us going through Melisandre and Missandei again.
Danny like blacks out at the end of one chapter, I think. And then the next chapter she wakes up and she's like, "Where's my son?" And they're like, "Your son didn't make it because somebody entered the tent." Right? Or she gave birth while they're trying to save Drogo.
I mean, let's not blame someone entering the tent. That shit was not coming out human regardless.
So this is actually in Fire
was
and Blood.
fucking that up.
So in Fire and Blood, the Targaryen history. And so, Glow, in Fire and Blood, the Targaryen history...
Because Miramaster was trying to fuck her.
Well, no. In Fire and Blood, the Targaryen history, there are several accounts of Targaryen women giving birth to, like, dragon-like children. Like, stillborn children that are, like, have, like, scales and shit like that. So this isn't the first time that this happened. It's in Fire and Blood a lot. I'm not gonna say a lot, but it happens at least once or twice.
Interesting.
So the one thing I have is when kind of going back to that, some of the like classic Targaryen traits is when Viserys is like freaking out. He says the sword pushed through her silks and pricked her at her navel. Viserys was weeping, she saw, weeping and laughing both at the same time. This man who had once been her brother, weeping and laughing. That's like a hysterical.
He's going
like
insane.
It reminds me of the Mad King, kind of like burn them all, as he's like getting stabbed by Jaime.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
come on, people have been like drunk, upset, but like laughing.
Like Egg's brother Aerion, who drinks wildfire, thinking that it'll make himself become a dragon. Or like Targaryens are kind of crazy. Come on,
he's drinking wine though.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like
he's very emotional. He's angry. Sure,
he knows he's dead at this point, but he's laughing.
He doesn't know he's dead.
You don't think so?
So, guys, we never answered my question.
He still thinks he's getting the crown in like the next page.
Who's the stallion that mounts the world?
It's fucking Drogon, the fucking dragon.
What'd you say, Glo?
Never answered my question. Who's the stallion that mounts the world? Is it her? Is it her dragons? Or is it a future baby?
It's Drogon.
It's so weird. In the show, there's that scene where Jon, it's in season 7, Jon and her are talking in the dragon pits, and she says something like, "Oh, I can never have children again, not until the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, or rises in the west and sets in the east until the rivers run dry," or whatever. The fucking Mary Mazdor prophecy. And Jon says, "Why do you think that?" And she's like, "A witch told me one time." And Jon says, "Did you ever think that she might not be a reliable source of information?" So, I mean, nothing ever comes out in the show, but how much shit did they start? I mean, fucking Azor Ahai, Lightbringer, they mentioned like twice in the show. So, like, there's a ton of shit in the show that they start and never finish. So, I think I fucking hope Dany does have another kid, but I'm not sure.
I hope it's Jon's.
I hope it's not Jon's, but I hope she does. And
dude, that would have been such a cool ending.
If they had a kid. It's
just
I
lived
feel
happily
like
ever
it doesn't.
after. Why couldn't they have lived happily ever after, like I asked?
One or two of them die, and the kid rules in their stead.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
What's that from?
That's a Ramsey quote. Ramsey says at the Theon. It was like one of the biggest memes before season 8 when people were like, "Oh, I think this is gonna happen," and then people would post that meme of Ramsey like, "If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention." Which I think is probably true.
Anything else, Glo?
I forget my other note right now.
All right, Nels, go ahead.
So the first one is when Dany walks into. So remember the thing about the. So this is the first chapter where they start calling themselves each other "Moon of my life" and "Son of
Son of my stars" and "Moon of my sky."
Yeah,
something
whatever.
Like that.
So listen. So what was the whole point of that prophecy, Jeff? Do you remember where did dragons come from? What was like that?
The moon and the sun collided.
They got too close or something.
And then what happened?
Dragons were birthed from the moon.
From the moon, right? The moon broke apart and a million dragons poured out.
So this is the moon and the sun coming together for the three.
Just listen to this. The procession waited on the grassy shore as Dany stripped and let her soiled clothes fall to the ground. Naked, she stepped gingerly into the water. Eerie said the lake had no bottom, but Dany felt soft mud squishing between her toes as she pushed through the tall reeds. The moon floated on the still black waters, shattering and reforming as the ripples washed over it. So as Dany steps into the water, she sees the moon shattering because of the ripples.
I mean, yeah, rippling.
And Dany is the moon.
Is the moon.
Yeah, Drogo calls
But
Dany
she
moon
doesn't
of my
break.
life. She doesn't break, but like the thing is the dragons are birthed from her.
Makes sense.
I don't know. I think
I'm
this
not
is-
going to fight you on that
It's
one.
good
this one might
symbolism.
be
I like that
I think
symbolism.
it might be a subtle symbolism. And then the last one, I think you guys are gonna think this is a little bit of a stretch, but I think it's more pointing towards the Dany and Lyanna thing. And I read this quote
She
earlier
rode her
in the
horse
actual thing.
fast.
No, well, not that, but when Dany says, when she's talking about to Jorah about Viserys, you don't understand, sir. She said, "My mother died giving birth to me, Lyanna, and my father and my brother, Rhaegar." She says, "My father and my brother, Rhaegar."
What's the
Just the fact that she says father, she does say my brother
She
Rhaegar,
says,
but she
my
says my
mother
father
died giving
and my.
birth to me, and my father and my brother Rhaegar.
There's no comma though. It's an Oxford comma, so you don't need a comma before.
So you think
the fact that
Rhaegar's her
the fact that she's saying
brother,
father, yeah, brother, father, exactly. The fact that she says brother and father because she thinks it's his brother, but he actually is her father. I don't know. I think
you
wording,
technically need that comma in front of the end.
Yeah,
you don't.
that's what he's saying. It was an Oxford comma.
It's called an Oxford comma. You don't need it. Sometimes you
Who
put
gives
it.
a fuck about an Oxford comma? Sorry.
Is that
it's
from a song?
It's a song. It's actually called Oxford comma.
So the Oxford comma it's a comma. You can put a comma with the and. You can or you don't have to. Both are technically correct. But I don't know. I think the wording of this sentence is weird. And when I read it the first time, I was like, wow, that's weird how she says, my mother died giving birth to me, which is true even if it's her mother is Lyanna. And then she puts father and brother Rhaegar in the same sentence. Nothing too deep there, but I just a little
I
hint
understand.
towards it.
Yeah,
It's definitely
I
a
see what you're
Nelson
saying.
stretch, but
Nelson
and
stretch.
as you said before, Nelson, I think this was my other note. This is actually my other note, Nelson. And as you said before, she only got information from Viserys, and if Viserys told her that she was actually Rhaegar's kid, she would be next in line, which hinders his
Exactly. I think I talked about this
escalation
before.
to kingdom. Yeah, you did say that's what I'm saying. You said this before, so maybe he did withhold that information and say, "Hey, you're actually my sister, not my niece."
That's in the same sentence, right? Or the same.
Yeah, it's the next sentence. I would never have known so much as their names if Viserys had not been there to tell me.
Yeah. So in the same breath, she says, "You don't understand, sir. My mother died giving birth to me, and my father and my brother Rhaegar even before that. I would never have known so much their names if Viserys had not been the one to tell me." And like I said before, Viserys, there's a good chance, maybe not a good chance, but he potentially is lying about this to better himself, right? So she says, the only reason I know that they're my parents, I even know their fucking names, is because Viserys told me. Without that, I would have no idea who my parents were. Is basically what the sentence is saying. So again, I don't think it's proof or anything, but interesting.
You know what? Yeah, I'm on this train now because I want some difference between the show. Because
no, just map out how Lyanna has Daenerys and then she ends up with Viserys.
I'm not sure, because Viserys goes to Dragonstone for sure. His mother is pregnant. So there's a bunch of different things, because we have not many people think that Jon is I forget her name.
Ashara?
No, Viserys' mom.
I forget her name.
I don't
Joanna.
Fuck her.
No.
Joanna
Mrs.
was Tywin.
Mrs. Lannister.
Mrs. Targaryen.
Mrs. Targaryen.
Oh, she's a Dane. She is.
No, she's not a Dane.
Ilaria.
She's a Targaryen.
No.
No, that's Rhaegar. That's Rhaegar. Rhaegar's wife is Ilaria Martell. Right. I don't remember who the Mad King's mom is.
Doesn't matter.
Either way, she was pregnant, right? So everyone knew she was pregnant. That's why people think that she's Dany's mom. There's 3 babies. We have Jon, Jon, and Dany. They're all about the same age, right? Aegon potentially could be Rhaegar's first son, Aegon, right? He would be about 2 years older, maybe 1.5 years older.
Because they crushed his skull and couldn't tell.
They crushed his skull, couldn't tell. The theory, when we actually meet Aegon the first time, what they say is that Varys went to Flea Bottom and got a fucking peasant to trade his son for a flask of Arbor Gold. Because he had other sons, but he had never had a flask of Arbor Gold because he's from Flea Bottom.
Okay, so we got 3 babies: Jon, Daenerys, and Fagon.
So most people don't believe that Fagon is actually Aegon and that Viserys is lying about that baby swap. Most people don't believe that.
Varys.
Varys. Yeah, sorry. So the main theory behind Aegon is that he's actually Illyrio's son.
Okay.
Right. So, but saying that doesn't happen, we have 3 pregnant women and 3 babies. If you discount Illyrio, which I don't think we should. I don't think we should discount Illyrio.
Dane, the
Ashara
third
Dane's
pregnant?
a pregnant one because most people think that she had a stillborn and then killed herself. So she was definitely pregnant.
Okay.
Then there's Lyanna, and then there's Dany, Viserys' mom. Right. So if any one of them has a stillborn, which is very likely in the day and age, then there's a missing baby, and it gives room for Aegon to be Illyrio's kid or whatever. Right. So,
okay. If Dany is Lyanna's kid, how is she getting from Dorne to? So
if Dany is Lyanna's kid, she's already in Dorne. The thing we know about Viserys.
How is she He goes to Dorne.
So we know. So the theory, what Dany believes right now is that her mother, during the Sack of King's Landing, right before the Sack of King's Landing, left and went to Dragonstone, gave birth to her, and then Sir William Derry, I think, took Dany and Viserys down to Dorne. Kept them in Dorne for a little bit. That's where Dany saw. I guess the actual thought is that he took them to Bravos, and that's where Dany lived and saw the house with the lemon tree outside.
No, the lemon tree would be in Dorne, isn't that where lemon trees go?
Exactly. Right. But what Dany thinks is that she was born in Dragonstone, and then her and Viserys went to Bravos. It's almost 100% guarantee that they didn't go to Bravos and that they instead went to Dorne because of the lemon tree thing glow. So So it doesn't. My argument is it doesn't matter if Dany was born in Dragonstone or not, because Viserys ends up in Dorne anyway, which is where Dany would be if she was born by Lyanna. So even if you believe that Dany was born by Viserys' mom, most, like 90% of people believe that instead of going to Bravos, she went to Dorne. I don't know why that's important.
I'm fine with them going to Dorne. Like you said, I don't really care. Ned is not leaving this baby.
So Dany, so here the theory is, Dany, you're right. So Lyanna's baby is in Dorne with blonde hair. Dany with very Targaryen features, purple eyes, white hair. Ashara and either his baby, but most people think it's not his. It's actually Brandon's. Right? Is Jon, born by Ashara. So there's 2 babies: a Rhaegar Lyanna baby and a Brandon and Ashara baby. Both are in Dorne. Dany has silver hair.
Why is Ashara in Dorne?
Because Ashara lives in Dorne. Starfall's in Dorne.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's an island. It's an island.
Ashara from Dorne.
It's an island off the coast. It's off the coast of Dorne. So 2 babies in Dorne. We have people think Jon Snow, who's Ashara's baby. My theory. I'll talk about my theory first.
Fine. Just talk.
My theory. Dany is Lyanna's baby. Viserys gets brought down to Dorne after whatever happens. His mom has a miscarriage or whatever. He is brought down to Dorne. Dany is reunited with him because they both have Targaryen features, and they're like, we have to get these kids out of here because if we leave Targaryen babies in King's Landing or in Westeros, they're fucked. Same Jon Snow, who isn't a Targaryen, he is a Stark and a Dane, is way less risk to being killed by Robert. Ned takes him back with him because A, he looks like a fucking Stark, doesn't have any risk of being killed by Robert Baratheon because he has no Targaryen lineage. He takes him back with him just to honor Brandon. And the other thing is he sends Dany across the Narrow Sea because he knows that it'll be safer for her because she's fucked if she stays in Westeros with Targaryen features. That is my theory, and that's what people believe.
This goes against my theory, which states that Benjen Stark and Lyanna had a kid that is Jon Snow. And that's why Benjen's at the wall.
You actually think that?
No, but that's a funny theory.
That is a theory.
A wild theory.
I know, it's a funny theory.
Jon Snow is described as being like double Stark, though. So like even our fans will see this in a few episodes, but I have actually hired a graphic artist to create some renditions of some of all the point of view characters. And when I did that, I had to go through and scour the book for any mention of an appearance for any of the book characters. The way Jon Snow is, the way Ned, so who are the characters that look like Catelyn and who are the characters that look like a Stark?
Robb, Bran, and Sansa look like Catelyn, while Arya and Jon look like Ned or Stark features.
Exactly. So Ned is described to have a long face, dark brown hair, and gray eyes. Arya is described to have a long face to the point where she's even nicknamed Arya Horseface, dark brown hair, and gray eyes. Jon is described to have a very long and sharp face, dark gray eyes to the point of almost being black, and dark brown hair to the point of his hair almost being black. So people describe Jon as like a double Stark, right? Like having double, like the Stark features, but super exaggerated. Instead of gray eyes, dark gray eyes. Instead of a long face, a very long and sharp face. Instead of dark brown hair, very dark brown hair, borderline black, right? So, and I'm interested to see, because like you don't really get that the juxtaposition.
All right, explain that for Arya though.
No, Arya doesn't have...
Arya's described the exact same as Ned. Dark brown hair, gray eyes, long face. Jon is described as dark gray eyes, dark brown hair, and a very long face.
Okay.
Like even like if you fans, Jeff, whoever wants, if you go to the Wikipedia and look up from the Wiki of Fire and Ice, Ned, Arya, and Jon, that's what you'll find. That's what you'll see for their appearance.
I believe you, but why does Arya look like Ned and not like Catelyn?
I'm not sure. Just because I mean,
Alleles.
Do you and Jenna look like more like your dad? Like I look more like my dad than my mom. My brother looks more like my mom than my dad. My mom had red hair. My brother has red hair. My dad has dark hair.
Like we've said with everything else, it's a calculated thing. Like why not Rickon too? Why can't he be a?
Nobody's really described Rickon as looking either one way or the other. Yeah. I mean he's also 3, so it's kind of hard to tell.
I'm just saying, like, but. I'm saying there's got to be a reason.
But the whole point of that description was to point out that what Glow was saying, while a ridiculous theory that Lyanna and Benjen had a kid, is that's the grounds of that theory, is that Jon looks like a double Stark. So how do you get a double Stark? You have 2 Starks fuck each other. I don't believe it. Glow doesn't believe it. But it is a theory that's out there. And it was a joke, but I think it's
Remind me again why Lyanna goes south.
She's south of the Harrenhal tourney.
Yeah, she snuck in.
Besides that, we don't.
Smiling Tree or something.
There's a mystery knight called the Knight of the Laughing Tree. Some people think it's Lyanna. Most people, it's a toss up.
They think she fights in it.
Most people think it's Helen. The most popular theory is that it's Helen Reed. But yeah, some people think it's Lyanna.
Helen Reed seems like a badass.
Some people think it's Lyanna
I think it's Lyanna.
Because she's so good at riding. The reason people don't think it's Lyanna is because the other reason people think it's Lyanna is because after the Knight of the Laughing Tree wins the tournament or wins like a couple of jousts, so what happens is, we're getting kind of off track here, but I'll talk about this real quick. And Mira Reeves tells Bran this story in book 3. The Knight of the Howland Reed shows up at the Harrenhal tournament, and he immediately gets beat up by 3 squires. Which doesn't make any sense, right? Because Howland Reed is the one that beats Arthur Dayne later on. Not in single combat, but fuck. Jesus Christ. If you're going to beat Arthur Dayne, you're really going to lose to 3 fucking squires. People think he lost on purpose to kind of like get sympathy from the Starks. Because after he gets beat up, Lyanna kind of like feels bad for him and takes him under his wing. And he becomes pretty good friends with Benjen. Or not Benjen. He becomes pretty good friends with Ned. And he becomes pretty good friends with Brandon at that tournament. Then the Knight of the Laughing Tree shows up and beats all 3 of the squires in the tournament. And then disappears into the night and is never seen of again, except for the shield is hanging from a tree. Rhaegar was sent after the Knight of the Laughing Tree to capture and find out who it was, but was never found. People think it's Lyanna because Lyanna was the one that originally defended Howland from the squires, like told him to stop beating him up. Lyanna is good at horseback riding, and Rhaegar loves Lyanna.
So she beat him in a joust, or she beat him in combat?
No, she just like, what do you mean? When she saves him from the squires?
She beats him up in the joust.
So when she saves Howland from the squires, she doesn't really save him in a fight. She's just like, hey, get the fuck out of here. Quit being an asshole. Right? But then
why are these 3 squires just beating him up?
Because he's a weird Crannogman who eats frogs and is from the fucking like Jojen and Amira get bullied a lot.
So he
for
literally
being
just
weird.
walks in the Harrenhal and they're just like, hey, let's go beat this guy up.
Exactly. So he wasn't invited. He wasn't invited to the tournament. He was on a mission. He was on a trek to go to the Isle of the Faces in the middle of the God's Eye, which Harrenhal is right on the shores of the God's Eye. So again, we'll talk about this way later on. I don't want to get too much into it, but the main theory is that because Lyanna is the one who saves him from, not saves, but like discourages the squires from beating him up, it makes sense that Lyanna would be the one who beats all 3 squires in the joust. It doesn't make sense because Lyanna, why would she ever have practiced jousting? But we know she's a pretty good rider. The other piece of evidence why people think it might be Lyanna is because Rhaegar was sent to capture this person. And all we ever find is their shield and tree.
Fall in love.
So people think that Rhaegar Rhaegar thinks that they actually caught up people think that Rhaegar actually found the Night of Laughing Tree, found out it was Lyanna, and then let her go because he doesn't want to.
Or he fell in love with her.
Well, exactly.
banged her,
He finds her. He's like,
her.
"Holy shit, you're a girl. This is crazy. I'm gonna let you go. I'm obviously not gonna turn you in." And then 2 days later, when he wins the tournament, because of that interaction, that's why he cried. Like that part of her being a badass is why he falls in
Wait,
love
so
with
then
her.
she goes back to Harrenhal?
Yeah, because that's not the end of the tournament. That's like day 2. Like literally, the Night of Laughing Tree shows up and literally only beats the 3 squires and then leaves.
And nobody realized, oh, where's Lyanna? She's not in the stands right now.
All we know about the tourney at Harrenhal is a story that Mira Reed tells Bran, and it's not even like, she doesn't even use names. She says like, oh, a Crannogman and the Strong Wolf and the Quiet Wolf. And the Strong Wolf is meant to be Brandon, and the Quiet Wolf is meant to be Ned, right? So it's like, it's not... There's no name, so we don't have like 100% account of this. But I'm telling you where these 2 theories come from.
I gotcha.
That's the main theory. The second theory is that it's Howland Reed himself, because we know Howland Reed is a pretty competent fighter, right? He fights with Ned. Ned and Howland 2v1 beat Arthur Dayne, right? So he's competent enough. How the fuck is he getting beat up by 3 squires? First off, that had to be a fake or whatever.
I take that with a lot more salt than Lyanna.
Yeah, so
seriously.
I mean,
if you're beat up,
later,
it's going to be hard to joust and hold a fucking lance.
We'll get
Just
into it
saying.
later, but those are the 2 main theories behind the Night of Laughing Tree and Harrenhal. I have no idea how we got on this topic from where we are.
Because I wanted to
the parent.
figure
We're talking
out
about
why
the Lyanna
Ned
stuff.
was leaving Dany.
Yeah, the parent stuff.
I still don't believe Ned leaves Dany.
People think
but-
Ned leaves Dany because there's no way he can keep her safe and pretend she's not a Targaryen because of her features.
I don't think he would need to pretend, but if he...
What do you mean?
Do you think Robert just kills her? Just
because she's a Targaryen
fuck it, I'm
blood,
killing her?
kinda,
Yeah.
kind of.
I don't know.
Robert, in
know.
the first chapter we ever
It's
see
also
Robert,
it's
he
also
tells-
part of Lyanna.
in the first chapter we ever meet Robert, he tells Ned, like, I hate Rhaegar for what he did to Lyanna, and Ned says, you killed Rhaegar. And he's like, only once. He's like, 1,000 deaths wouldn't be more than Rhaegar deserves. Also,
Yeah, but
when
I think this
Tywin
might be
presents,
different. This is a
when
baby
Tywin-
girl who's
when
part of
Tywin
Lyanna. It could be
presents-
different.
when Tywin presents the 2 dead babies to Robert, it is said that he smiled at it. When he presents Rhaegar's dead babies, one with a smashed head, he smiles at it.
I don't know. This is Lyanna's baby, though. I'm saying Ned could carry a little bit of weight in this conversation.
I get what you're saying. Like Littlefinger has a similar predicament on his hand, right? He has to hide Sansa Stark, who has very Stark feature, or who has very Tully features, auburn hair, bright blue eyes. What does he do? He fucking dyes her hair. Right, Ned could fucking dye Dany's hair. But Ned isn't a Littlefinger. Ned is more straightforward than that. It might be like, fuck, get this kid out of here. I'll take the other one.
I think
That's
no,
the theory,
no
at least.
fucking way. I don't believe it at all. I think
that's
it's
why,
more
and
Ned.
that's why he has such a visceral reaction to Robert wanting to kill Dany. And we'll even think he thinks of broken when he gets in the dungeon, probably in 2 or 3 Ned chapters from now. He thinks of broken promises because Varys told Ned that Lyanna's dead. Those birds have already flown. She's too far gone. I've already sent assassins after her. And then Ned in the
Daenerys.
dungeons, the next chapter, thinks of broken promises. How does that have anything to do? How is Jon in any more danger than he used to be if his promise is about protecting Jon?
All right, I gotcha.
So yeah, we got kind of off topic, but that happens a lot when we talk about Dany because of the whole parentage thing. I think this is a good chapter. I'm excited to see what Kyle thinks.
I think
of
it's
next
just
chapter when
important to
Robert
map
dies.
it out too. You got to map out these theories.
For sure. Yeah, you got.
Yeah, you gotta defend them.
get
You
what you're
gotta
saying.
fucking present your evidence.
Not even just defend them, just like logistically, like why did she get here when she was there, type of deal.
The thing is, what I don't like is anytime I have a theory that isn't the popular theory, right? So like the parentage thing, the popular theory is Jon is like Rhaegar and Lyanna's, Dany is just Viserys' brother. And the thing is, because that's the popular theory, most people feel like they don't have to provide evidence for it, right? Like
Yeah.
you guys have shown, I think there's only been once or twice where we go into the spoiler sections and you guys are like, I fucking got you, Nelson. I have evidence that shows Jon is Lyanna's kid, right? That's happened before. You guys have done that once or twice where
It's
we
more
enter the
than
spoiler
once and
section
twice.
and you're like, we
I
fucking
think
got
the
you.
last,
Jeff, how many times has that happened?
At least
literally
3
the
or
last
4
episode
times.
when Ned doesn't call Jon his kid.
Jon, I mean, I claim
But
that
that
Jon,
could
I claim
be-
that he's Brandon's kid. That's my
Yeah.
claim.
Well, that's crazy.
There was one time where like there was something pretty obvious. I think it was the one where Ned gets the horse fallen on him when he's leaving the brothel. There was something where you guys were like, "See, I told you." But how many times have I told you guys, "Hey," and again, it's not like a "see, I told you" because none of it is solid. but like, hey, check out this piece of evidence. I feel like I have presented way more evidence to the contrary to this point than you guys have the other way. Right? So,
but we're also, again, on chapter fucking
45. 45.
Of a lot to go. We've had like 4 John chapters, so.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that when you're
We've
taking...
had 5 Dany chapters and like 5 John. We've 10 chapters of those two.
I think this is actually a thing in like debating class or whatever. When you take the stance of the accepted, you have left you don't have to defend or prove as hard. Where you're trying to prove something on the contrary to popular belief, you have to provide way more evidence. So that's kind of the stance I'm coming from. And again,
I agree with you.
I think that most likely we're gonna get to Win's a Winner, and we're gonna find out that Jon is Lyanna's kid because that's what fucking happened in the show. And then the whole thing about the show is how did they get the show? They were able to tell
who
Jon's mom was, right? So I think that most likely Jon is probably Lyanna's kid. But I think there's a lot of evidence pointing to the contrary. And why... My thing is there's evidence pointing to the contrary, and why would George put that evidence in?
Yeah, I mean, you have to ask him. But again, in the show, like just because you brought it up, they say who Jon's mom is. Ashara Dane, I don't think is ever mentioned in the show.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think once.
Not even like between Ned and Catelyn type of deal. Like she's never even a thought.
Correct. And again, George R. R. Martin, one of the biggest things he says about in the show is they leave off little things, little minor characters early on. And he has said this in interviews. Dave and Dan leave out minor characters early on that cascade into, holy shit, I didn't think this minor character would have such a big impact later on. And it's like, I don't know if you guys have ever read the book. I'm sure a lot of our fans have the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a guy going back in time and all, like,
Ashton Kutcher going back in time.
Is it a movie? You probably saw
it.
It
is a movie.
Yeah, I saw the movie. I didn't know it was a book.
That's the movie, but the butterfly effect is just like one
small
little thing creating.
Well, it's based off a book where a guy goes back in time and they basically say like, hey, you can check out this prehistoric landscape, but you have to stay on this path. Like there's a wooden path that like is like 4 feet above the ground, and you can walk on it and not touch anything, and you can experience the past, but don't touch fucking anything or you fuck it up. And this guy is walking on the wooden path and he doesn't touch anything, but there's a butterfly on the wooden path and he steps on it. And that's the only thing he changes about the past. And then when he goes back to the future, everything is fucking different. So that's like that's the premise of the butterfly effect. Is you change one thing so minutely in the past, and it can have catastrophic effects in the future. And George R. R. Martin has talked about it a lot. Like you leave out a character like Ashara Dane, you leave out characters like fucking Aeron Dampare. Right? Even Euron Greyjoy doesn't really show up in the books the same way. You leave off a ton of characters like this, and then when they become important later on, your hand is kind of forced. You got to figure out something else to fill the hole.
I mean, that's the problem with taking a book into a show or a movie type of deal, is that you got to cut some details out. But
exactly, but I think Dave and I'm not saying that Dave and Dan did anything wrong. I mean, they did do things wrong towards the end of the season, but I think early on you have to make concessions like that because the books, like these books, like how many characters do we already have already, right? You can't have that many people in a show. Yeah. Exactly. So like, sure. I don't think they did anything wrong, but I think and I'm not going to say their mistake, but I think a big mistake that people might make adapting books or written material to TV or TV or movies is, if you do it before the books are finished or the source material is finished, you don't know which minor characters are important or not.
Yeah, right. And that's very true.
Right, like up to book 5, Ashara Dane is not important a lot. You mentioned her a few times in book 1. I think she might get mentioned maybe 3 times, books 2, 3, 5. Right, so if I'm Dave and Dan, yeah, she's getting fucking cut. I don't want to fucking confuse viewers and just throw more characters at them. But if George had told me that, in book 7 it's going to turn out that Ashara Dane had a huge plot twist, then they're kind of screwed because they didn't include her. So I'm not blaming them because you have to make concessions. I think the biggest problem was that they didn't have all the source material when they started the adaptation. But we are getting completely off track. That was all I had for this chapter. What about you guys?
Good on my end over here, friend.
I didn't have anything. I just was curious about the map. Not the actual map, the map of how Dany as Lyanna goes to here to here to there to there to bang to boom to ba to boo to ba to ba deep dop deep dop doop.
But yeah, we'll get out of here. This is if nothing gets edited out, we're running on a 2-hour episode. This will be by far our longest episode ever. So
it'll happen.
Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you in the next one where
peace out, boys and
Robert
girls.
Baratheon comes back to the city a little worse for the wear.
Dead. He's dead.
All right, guys, like us
Dying.
on Spotify, leave us a review on iTunes, give us a comment if you want us to talk about something. Please tell us what you think about the way we're leading Kyle on in predictions. I want to know how to proceed with that. And we will see you in the next one, Ned 13, I think.
Bye-bye.